Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs.
This week, we watched Neon Genesis Evangelion, also known as just Evangelion, or Eva. This show is widely considered one of the greatest anime series of all time. It is a mecha anime series produced by Gainax, animated by Tatsunoko, and directed by Hideaki Anno. Its original run was broadcast on TV Tokyo from October 1995 to March 1996. The series was distributed in North America by ADV Films until late 2011, when it was announced that the series was going out of print. On November 36, 2018, Netflix announced that it had acquired the worldwide streaming rights for the series. Following the dissolution of ADV Films, the Netflix release includes a retranslated script and a new English-language dubcast. Evangelion has had a significant impact on Japanese pop culture and a strong influence on anime as a whole. At a time when the anime industry was in a slump period in the 80s and 90s, following the economic crash in Japan. It has been credited with revitalizing and transforming the giant mecha genre, and imposed new standards for the animated serial, characterized by innovations that allowed a technical and artistic revival of the industry. The production of anime serials began to reflect greater author control, the concentration of resources in fewer but higher quality episodes, and a directorial approach similar to live film. Eva's success made the medium more accessible to the international youth scene, and otaku culture became a mass social phenomenon. The show itself is set 15 years after a worldwide cataclysm in the futuristic fortified city of Tokyo 3. The protagonist is Shinji Ikari, a teenage boy recruited by his father to the mysterious organization known as NERV. Shinji must pilot a giant biomechanical mecha and fight beings known as angels. The series focuses on the experiences and emotions of the Evangelion pilots and NERV members as they battle the angels. They are called upon to understand the ultimate cause of events and the motives behind human action. Eva has been described as a deconstruction of the mecha genre, and features archetypal imagery derived from Shinto cosmology and Jewish and Christian mystical traditions. The psychoanalytic accounts of human behavior put forward by Freud and Jung are also prominently featured. We watched 5 episodes. Episode 1, 2, 9, 18, and 22. So Nick,
Yeah.
why is this show on our list?
I mean, so many of the points you just brought up, it is like, I don't know if it's too much to say that it was kind of a revolution in anime and like anime fandom in so much of what it did and what it just what it is such a weird thing that managed to intrigue and resonate such that it I don't know, it pushed things forward rather than being cast aside, you know?
Yeah. So, when in your anime lifetime did you first watch this show?
Probably high school. This was one of those ones where it's like, this was like before I was doing anime conventions. This was before I would even like have too many people to talk about Evangelion with, but you hear like, oh, it's Evangelion. Everyone knows about this show. All right, I'll check it out. I like mech shows. And then, okay, so that's my secondary intros. I was going to say that like, it, I do not think this is a mecha show. In looking at it, some people say that it is a deconstruction of the mech genre, in that it is just like, oh yeah, no, kids would not be the go-getter, guts-driven heroes of the show. They would just break down because A, they're already teenagers, and B, yeah, existential threats to the world would break anyone down mentally. But I think even that is at least not what its intention was. So I don't know if it's fair to call it that. Like, the thing is, I think this show is first and foremost an examination of mental turmoil. Just first and foremost, it is, we have a number of different characters. Everyone has internal conflicts and struggles. We have people who are, dealing with anxieties, dealing with, not even knowing what their own emotions are. A lot of it is focused on teenagers who, that is an age that everyone, it resonates with everyone, that is an age where like you are just, really learning about yourself and about your personalities and, coming to terms with your own suddenly occurring agency in the world. And then on top of that, you add, by the way, here are these giant robots. They're not actually robots. We'll talk about that later. And
spoilers.
I know. It's not a spoiler. They say it like in the first, it's the first or second
Spoiler.
episode. You can't spoil the first episode. First episode. But it is all of these people who their internal conflict is a primary conflict. Like you would think it is the very like kaiju descended battles between giant humanoid robot things and like humanoid shaped but otherwise monstrous beings. The opening of the first episode with like the rows of tanks just pointed at the shoreline is like, I swear that is directly out of Godzilla films, but my understanding of Anno and Gainax, like as a production studio, is they a super robot mecha style show is all they knew how to make. Like that is the stuff that they produced before this. That is stuff that they are going to go on to do afterwards. That is just the one thing they know how to make. So when I look at this, like, because when I did watch it when I was a lot younger, I was looking for a mech show, and by the end, I did not have a mech show, and I was like upset at this show. It felt like a bait and switch. But going back and looking at it as, no, this is about characters and, going through their mental toil. And that's what the main conflict is. It's just like, oh, now this show makes a lot of sense. And there is a lot to chew on there. Plus you get, a couple of cool fights and a lot of just like mechanical design porn, which is also great. But like the robot showness of it is just the structure that the creators knew. So that is what they made. And that was their inroads to being like, okay, like, how do we talk about mental stuff? Okay, start by making a robot show and then have it talk about mental stuff. And it's like, when you look at it that way, I have found this to be an extremely satisfying and like it's a show that I don't, going into some of like the history of the director and all of that, which I'm sure we'll get into later. Like it is a show that I don't think has good answers for any of the questions it brings up, but it is spending its whole time talking about it and going at it from different angles. And even, when you watch people who are struggling to help other people who are struggling, it is just like, oh, okay, there is character depth here. There is, questions, and so much of it does resonate in a real way. Which again is crazy for a show about giant meat robots fighting aliens. It's just like, oh, okay, all right, okay, sure. I don't know how you did that, but it is, and it's also a very dense show. Like I think I've watched this series through completely maybe twice. And I look forward to a third in the probably not too distant future, because every time you watch it, between like the multiple angles to appreciate this show from, as well as the density of this show, because every time you watch it, you are paying attention to the one new thing you have a grip on and still missing like two or three things. This is just fantastic in a way that I don't even know how to put words to. And y'all know I love to figure out the words to put to something. But yeah, I that's all of that being said, like that is kind of why it's on our list. That is why it is a touchstone. That is why it is on our list. And that it, again, the sort of like unsettlingly resonant way that it deals with mental turmoil is also why it is like the climax not only of the existential dread tier but kind of our whole series one in general, right? Like this is the last show on our list, and it was going to be near the end by design, but to end directly on it, what was, there's no better way this could have gone, you know.
How about you, Chuck? When were you first exposed to this series?
Oh, Bob and I were still roommates, so 2018.
Oh, that's late.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So my history with anime is somewhat different than others, in that I really didn't start seeing a lot of anime until I was in my sophomore year of high school, a la 2002, 2001, 2002. Yeah, that year. And then it continued for a while up until about 2004 or 5, and then I just kind of took some time away. A lot of the stuff that people I were like very early roommates and friends were watching, as no surprise, I've demonstrated that shonen really isn't my bag. There are some exceptions to that rule, like so many things in the world. But a lot of what they were showing me was that, or a lot of shows that fall into tropes of anime and stereotypes of anime I can't stand. So I took some time away thinking like, oh, all the good stuff is gone. This is clearly it. It's like, this is, I have seen it all at the time, at least all that was readily available in English at the time. I came back, as I mentioned, about 2014, starting with Fate Stay Night, and proceeded to go from there. As I returned to anime, I heard of Eva. I knew it was one of those touchstones I missed, and I could definitively say, even having at that time not seen it, that I could tell it was a touchstone by the way it was talked about, the amount of discourse around it. Let's see, 1999 through 2014, so 15 years later, and that discourse really hadn't stopped. It only was continuing at more or less the same pace it appeared to have throughout time, looking back historically. So I really didn't make time or have any qualms about not having seen Ava, except not until about 2017, 2018, when I like a lot of anti-tubers that talk in depth about pieces and dissect anime and their themes, and several of the ones I liked at the time were doing as such. And it was to the point that I was kind of interested. This is also about the time when a certain amount of media from Ava was starting to come back into popular culture zeitgeist. So I was curious, like, it might not be a bad time to look at it. But it was a while before I actually found a site I felt comfortable pirating. Yes, I pirated it. Sue me. And by the way, kids, pirate Disney. I'm screwing us over on a Disney sponsorship, but after what they did to that poor family, pirate Disney. That said, I pirated the show. I watched it with the original dub, and I could see a lot of why it had garnered so much attention and still held on to that, a decade and a half plus later at that time. And I've rewatched it several times since, especially after it was much easier to get a hold of on Netflix. And I've viewed, I believe, all of its associated media therein. I could be wrong. I'm really not. That's not a hill I'm really concerned to die on. But I've watched a lot of it, if not all of it. And I see a lot of what's there. And I don't know if I should save this for final thoughts, but I guess since Nick kind of brought some of what I was planning on discussing forward, I'll say this. I like what it does visually and how it tries to use certain iconography and imagery and names. Uh, but I will say, probably my biggest critique is that a lot of the theological symbolism that people cling to on it and say is super deep has more or less, even by the creator, been stated to be no, it was really just superficial. We really like the imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And so, keeping that in mind, I we're going to go ahead and get my final thoughts out of the way. I don't think Ava's a bad show. I think it's really good. I would never call it the best anime. It was highly influential, and I think it deserves to be a touchstone by all means. But I do think some of the reasons people call it the best anime is because they don't actually understand what they're watching. Go ahead.
When you're talking to somebody who's when you're looking at something that you don't understand and you recognize that it's higher than you can't tell if it's 1% or 1,000% higher, you know?
Right.
So it's just like, oh, I'm watching this, I'm getting some of it, but I can tell stuff is going over my head.
Yes.
You will put it on a pedestal regardless of how high above your head it is.
And I agree with that. I think a lot of people saw that it was good and saw a lot of people saying it was really, really good. Therefore, it must be the best, because not many things garner that much attention. I don't think I necessarily have an anime I would say is quote unquote better than that. I would say it's among the best anime, but it's not a definitive singular best.
Yeah, especially because like when there's a threshold for best, right? Where it's just like, oh, you evaded all of the things that would drag you down, but at that point there is still always going to be wiggle room for preference. Like, I think if we try to make a list of like the top 25 anime, when you're in, you know, that high tier, I don't think you could ever that list would have to be unordered because it's impossible to order it at that point.
Agreed. And I'll be honest, when compiling our list, I deliberately chose to not put this on my list for several reasons. One being I figured Joe or Nick would throw it on there for the fact it was a touchstone, if not more. And I also felt that if personally it's one of those I would have rather saved it till later, though I do agree, and I'll get into why, that it should have also been in what we'll call run one of the podcast. Year is a gross misnomer.
Yeah.
This is episode 33, you guys.
I know.
We've done so many of these.
I know. I'm so proud of us.
I think it's even more than 33.
If you count like our watch along and the episode 0, yeah. So this is more like 35 things in the feed, yeah.
34.5.
Something like that.
You can sort of redo. That's a joke for me and Nick.
Yeah. No. Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
If I may, yeah, I gotta say. So here's why I think it. I had two minds about this being should have been later, but it also should have been now. I think it should have been later, just for the fact of like, because Ava is Ava, and there's no other real good way to put it. It is dense, intent both by design and then the perception of it. And I think warming up to it later on would have been beneficial. However, I will say, looking back on parts of anime culture in the United States, because that's all I can really speak to, that period I was kind of out is when it became more widely available, and it became one of those that was synonymous with Cowboy Bebop.
Yes.
Fill in a Gundam name here, typically Wing in America, just because that's the one Americans really latched onto. And a few others, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, and Ava.
This is what I wanted to just sort of interject here, is looking it up. The first time Ava was on Cartoon Network was in the year 2003. And for a little more context, this was during the regular Toonami block, where this was at like the 4:30 p.m. time slot. They could,
which explains why I missed it, because I was only in for Adult Swim.
but also because like they could only show the first 2 episodes, and they had to heavily edit it for content, because do you think you could show the rest of this series at 4:00 for kids? But yeah, so that was so like by this time, the reason like they put it on at all was because everybody knew about it. It had already reached like legendary status by 2003, but like '03 was the first time it was on American broadcast, and then 2005 is where they ended up airing the entire series on the Adult Swim block. So yeah, there's,
And like I said, I was already kind of working my way out, which really explains why I missed it for me.
yeah.
Makes me feel better about it.
That I think that's definitely in the zone where I was watching it, because I remember watching it. I might have watched it like a little bit before '03, so like '02, maybe in the '04 zone. I did not watch it when it was on Adult Swim, but that being a time where it took on a lot of, even more sort of mind share in the American audiences because of that. That is when I heard a bunch of podcasts talking about it, and I began to hear the other voices being like, oh, well, if you look at the show like this, well, if you look at the show like this, well, if you look at this part of this character, and that is when I started turning around on it and being like, from this show that I was like, I wanted a mech show. Then I was like, oh, it's about some of this other stuff, because I heard people talking about it. And that's when, by the time we get to the Evangelion, the Netflix releases in, what is that, 2018, 2019?
I would say right about then, yeah.
Yeah, that was about when I did my second rewatch, or my first rewatch, whatever it was.
In fact, it had to be announced in 2018, if I remember correctly, because I'm remembering this with a relationship I started up around that time, and I remember finishing my first watch of Ava, pirating it, and then like a week or two later, it was announced it's coming to Netflix next year, or later this year.
Oh, and just to finish up the timeline, the original Japanese air date for the first episode was 1995.
It was 95? For some reason, I thought it was 99.
Nope. Wild, huh?
Yeah.
But okay, I feel like that's probably enough background story to it. We should probably get into this, because we do have 5 episodes today.
We do. I do want to tack on as well. I agree with you. I personally think the assessment of it being a deconstruction of the mecha genre, I think it more bass-backward itself into that.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to tell a different story using the thin veneer of a super mecha show, or super robo show, kind of hybrid, to facilitate what it really wants to say. It's the paint job, as it were.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I agree. We got 5, and I have an impatient dog.
So that being said, let's jump directly into episode 1, Angel Attack. I do want to note I have put in both versions of English titles into here, because, long story, we'll get to it with episode 2, but for the first episode, they are the same, and it is just Angel Attack.
Anime.
Last thing before we start talking, who watched sub versus dub versus original dub?
I watched whatever Netflix put on for dub.
Okay, so you got the revised English dub.
I did both, because I am currently dealing with a dog that needs to not be jumping up around and going on walks, and he hates it.
Okay.
So it allowed me to kind of stay focused, and be attentive and be awake and around when he needed me, rather than starting on other things.
Okay, all right, makes sense. Joe?
Both, and I say both dubbed, and both the Netflix and the original.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched the ADV dub for nostalgia purposes.
I personally...
But this also notes to me that Bob didn't get the proper closing theme song, but I guess we can get to that at the
Oh yeah.
at the time.
Oh, read reading through notes, I saw what was written as the closing, and I'm like, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about the specifics when we get there, but yeah.
We will have a lot of moments where we talk about differences in the dub, I think. But yeah, okay, Bob, take us away. I know you don't have your full-on script today, so good luck.
Oh, thank you. Before I get started too far, should I blend episodes 1 and 2, or should I just do episode 1? What works for you guys?
There's enough in just episode 1. It'll be a very quick blend between.
It has a good break.
Yeah, but we have our notes. We do have clean splits in our notes, so.
Yes. Pretty much the show opens. We're introduced to Tokyo 3, which, who doesn't love a city with a number as well as a name? It ends up a black and white monster is attacking at the outskirts.
Hang on. Did the Netflix show
I'm
that?
skipping right over the intro.
Okay.
No,
Since Bob mentioned that, I'm going to throw this out there. It's a lovely intro. I'm okay with hitting the button.
Oh, we're enemies now. But no, also, part of the Netflix retranslation is there was like extra content in episodes.
I was gonna say, did they put the new
Mm-hmm.
OP over it with the extra images?
No, I think it's just like an extra scene.
Okay, because there is another version of the opening that has more content in it.
It's just it showed all the characters doing their spinning. 100 million characters I never even met or cared about.
Yeah, this is
being a first episode.
a very good example of like an anime opening theme song. Like, so many anime have like the imagery of like the character's face fading against the sky, and then like silhouettes walking and stuff. And a lot of shows after this, of course, then pulled directly from this opening to reference it specifically.
Yeah, now when you make a generic parody anime intro, you just end up with a Evangelion intro.
I think by the end of episode 1, we really only meet 4 of the characters that they show. 4.5.
Something like that.
You meet one, but you don't really know that it's her. So, we go through this intro, which I'm saving my opinion of the music till the end.
Okay.
I believe they do explain that this is 9 years ago, don't they?
Yeah.
At the intro, or at the beginning. 2015, folks. Can you believe it?
The far off future.
Just think in 5 years after the Angels attack, there's going to be a pandemic.
Oh, well,
so
I wouldn't worry too much about that in the world of Ava.
So we're introduced to, and they call it an angel. It's not like any angel I have ever seen before. And all of humanity is attacking it. At the same time, we're meeting our main character, Shinji. He's walking around the town that's right next to this angel attack, even though alarms are going off. Seek shelter. And the reason he's walking around is he's trying to meet up with someone who is trying to take him to another shelter? I don't know. It really doesn't give a clear reason why he's meeting up with this other girl.
Misato.
But she ends up meeting him. Yes, Misato. She gives me strong, because it's the only anime I can really reference, super knowledge of Bulma vibes. She's very fun, flirtatious, and direct.
I got you.
She drives up in her car. And it's interesting because there's all these explosions going on, but she's able to evade most of them. It's a weird war zone type of vibe where she has him jump in. He picks her up, and they're heading to where they need to go, and this is where we kind of get the back and forth of where they're going. They're going to see, I believe it's explained at this point that it's Shinji's dad.
Right, so
If I recall, it's during the conversation.
What has happened here is Shinji's dad runs Nerve, which is basically a secret government organization for building. basically, like, there was a prophecy that, like, hey, angels might be coming back at some point, and everybody was like, ha ha, no way. And some people were like, okay, but in case they do, we should, like, have a group that's working on building defense for that. And that's Nerve, and Shinji's dad runs it, and he is the one who sent Misato to go pick up Shinji because he's like, he needs Shinji to be part of the project. We don't know much more than that yet.
So we see Shinji get picked up, riding along with Natboma Masato, at which point all of the bombs and guns have done absolutely nothing to the Angel. So the Nerve Center, no, not even Nerve. At this point, it's just the Tokyo 3 army, because they send it off to Nerve after this, send off their big giant bomb to blow up the Angel. Big bomb go boom, flips the car Masato and Shinji are in, and they survive, fortunately. Masato,
Yeah, they throw an N2 mine at it.
Which
the
it's definitely being like, oh, that's a nuke, but no, N2 specifically stands for non-nuclear weaponry. This is so, like,
it's a safe bomb.
yeah, it is a nuke without nuclear fallout, basically, is what they wanted. It's like, we don't want to deal with the idea of fallout, so we're just putting N2 in here, which is going to
It's
be
Crater Maker.
yeah, it's one of the guy mentions just like, they set off an N2 bomb. We're going to have to redraw the map again. Ugh.
It's show makes me think a lot of Power Rangers sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
where how convenient the monster is attacking the empty area of town or out in the country. I'm sure there's episodes where that's different, but in this one it's like, at least he didn't make it to town.
Actually, that they kind of do very directly explain that why it's that way around here.
Is it during episode 2?
No, it's in an episode we didn't watch.
Gotcha. So Masato and Shinji flip the car back onto its wheels and continue on their way, with Masato being pretty upset that she has this broken car that she's still making payments on.
And tore her dress, and she's just so waka waka. There's this monster stomping around the city, and she's like, oh man, my dress.
Now, I gotta say, whatever that car is made of and whoever's making it, I need them to make cars now, because that thing survived, just shy of a nuke. I want that. I would be okay with making payments on that if it can survive that kind of trauma.
Misato's car is a Renault Alpine A310, a French-made rear-engined sports car that was in production from 1971 to 1985.
Renault, get on it.
It is most likely that the model Misato drives is the 1600 VE series. It originally came equipped with a 1.6-liter inline 4-cylinder engine, producing about 125 horsepower. Hey, when otaku get into something, they drill down on that thing. And like, so that's one of the ways in which this show really tricks you into thinking that it's like a regular mech show, is because they do the sort of like mechanical otaku-ness. Like, if you see like technology we could have in this day and age, and it's just like, yeah, that is based on something real. That is like a very specific thing that you can track down.
I kind of like this opening sequence too, because there's a lot of world building going on. Like, even Misato's reaction, like, while she's complaining about the car and the dress, like, it's not in like a whiny, like, oh, I'm a girl and this is all I care about way. It's very much just like, you can tell she's just not worried about the Angel at all. Like, she's just worried about the stuff that concerns her and her stuff.
Listen, I got into a car accident on a car I was still making about a year and a half worth of payments on too. I can completely relate to that. That makes her probably the most relatable character.
She's so relatable. I love her.
The other thing is, you see a lot of, while all the tanks and stuff are fighting the Angel, there's a lot of shots that have water covering like city buildings and stuff. And also, while Shinji's walking around, you hear the cicadas, and the cicadas will come up a lot because, especially specifically in Japan, like, that's the sound of summer is when the cicadas come out. And the fact that like they're always present is just this sense of it just gives you that feeling of like, oh, this is hot all the time. Like everything's kind of fucked up and something happened.
Yeah, there's serious lore. It's in another episode we didn't watch. We basically watch Shinji have a day at school, and you overhear the teacher's lecture, and that is like a very passive way that they're just like, "Here is the big thing that happened 15 years ago," but also you're getting
that's
like
explained?
the, huh?
So that is explained.
Yes. Oh, very much so.
Yeah, I think starting like episode 3, they start to explain it.
But like when you first get told about it, eventually you find out you're being given the cover-up story version of the event, and it's just the show is a lot. There's a lot in this show. It's great.
I will say, as far as world building is concerned, even the fact that there's an alarm telling people to take cover, I do appreciate that.
Mhm.
Because it means that they had a plan for angel attacks. Speaking of the angel, guess who survived his N2?
Uh-huh. Took his face off a little
That
bit.
is, he'll be fine. So Masato and Shinji finally make it to Nerve, which happens to be underground. They take an elevator that is specifically for vehicles, I would assume, and
Mhm.
goes down. We end up meeting Shinji's dad, and he is an interesting fellow. You just get that vibe right away. And Shinji and his dad really do not talk.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's like basically Gendo abandoned Shinji. I forget exactly how long ago, but it's like they have not seen or spoken with each other for like at least 10 years. Yeah.
It's really interesting, and you might as well get used to those vibes now.
Uh-huh.
We meet Ritsuko, who
Yeah.
is I think they're friends, Ritsuko and Masato, because I think Ritsuko is the main scientist.
Yes, she is like the head of research and development here at Nerve, vaguely speaking. Whereas Misato,
Yes.
I believe, is sort of
She's
like
a corporal or a
Operations.
sergeant or something.
tactical commander, more or less.
And they're both high-ranking, regardless of the vibe they give off. And they're both intelligent people. Please don't mistake what I'm saying. I genuinely like both characters, because their give and take is very Waldorf and can't think of the other guy's name from the
Statler.
Muppets.
Statler and Waldorf, yeah.
Yes,
They have
And
such a
it's
fun
just-
dynamic. It's so good.
they do. Like, even when they're yelling at each other, they're not.
Yeah.
Shinji is introduced as a third child, which it took me till like the 4th episode we watched to realize that meant something. No, the 3rd episode we watched.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, this third child ever? Is he the youngest in the family? What's going on?
Well, okay, so
But
this is sort of this was my breaking point with the Netflix dub, because in the Netflix dub he's called the third children, because that is technically
that's
a
true.
more literal translation, but it's also a stupid thing to her being said out loud in English. But yeah, he is like the third child who has been identified as a potential Ava pilot. There have been
Spoilers.
2 before him.
By the Marduk report.
Uh-huh. Don't worry about that proper
Little
now.
Marduks. I will say I did watch it dubbed, but I also watched it with subtitles,
Okay.
and they did differ.
Oh, I
know what
wonder-
subtitles pulled from.
I wonder. Oh no, the subs wouldn't be the ADV dub. It would probably be the translation of the Japanese.
Yeah, it is a revised sub as well.
I'd be curious about
Just
checking
know
that out.
I know that the spoken word and what was written were different at some points.
Yeah.
Not severely, but enough to be a break there. Okay, so we meet Shinji, Masato, and his dad are all on a bridge, and then you realize that they're standing in front of a robot. In my early viewing, ends up that is Unit 01,
Yes.
and he is. I say he. It is just standing there, and Shinji's dad is like, "Hey, you're gonna be piloting that."
Not
It's
do
like,
you want to, not could you. It's just do
No,
it.
no, you're doing it. And Shinji's like, "No, this is why you want me here? No, I'm not gonna do it."
Mhm.
And his dad's like, "Okay, we'll get the other pilot. Go grab the other pilot. And I think they call her Pilot Zero at this point. She doesn't even get a name now.
Yeah.
She gets a name.
Oh yeah, no, they do say go get Ray.
Okay.
She's the pilot of Unit Zero. They mentioned that.
Yeah.
And that flew over my head because that would imply there's another mech, which we find out later. But they go and get Ray, and she currently has a patch over her eye and a cast over her arm, laying in this hospital bed.
With a goddamn IV in.
Mm-hmm.
And Shinji's like, "Oh, you bastard," and ends up offering to go in because
The illusion of choice.
Yep. So they get him in his outfit. They get him into the mech, which they kind of screw it into it in the back. It's just this little tube that they insert.
Did
He says,
Did anyone else get big tampon vibes off of?
No, but I got something close.
What'd you get?
Listen, there's a lot of sexual innuendo. Well, not innuendo, but imagery here that is alluding to something sexual in a nature that is not prurient. And that's exactly where my mind went.
I would like to reinforce the fact that specifically Freudian and Jungian psychology was leaned on heavily for a lot of this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I will say,
buckle up, Bob.
I will say that it didn't go anywhere but in the back, like near the neck.
That's an option.
Yeah, but
I understand that you guys might not deal with tampons, but that is not where it goes.
For me, it was more the implication of a phallic object going into a open, relatively round receptacle.
A yonic receptacle, yes.
Thank you. Yes, I couldn't think of it fast enough.
Anyway, he gets in there, and then they flood it with a fluid that he is supposed to breathe, which I don't care who you are, you do not breathe liquid. It would freak me out.
Yeah, that's one of those... Yeah. I was gonna say, this is a thing that does exist. But yeah, I imagine it'd be so... you don't just spring that on someone. That's something you take training for.
Yeah.
Bob, I can promise you, this really does exist. No one remembers it, though.
I understand that. Although you have tubes going into your lungs. So they release the clamps on Unit 01. Shoot them up through a tube, but that makes no sense to me. This elevator makes no sense. The way that they showed the picture, it could have went straight up, but no, it goes up, then over, then up.
It's got options.
It's a sort of Wonka Vader for Tokyo 3.
Yeah, especially because it makes sense because the Avas have to be plugged in, so they're gonna want to bring it up at a point that's as close as possible to where it needs to be.
Right, we don't really cover that, but one of the mechanics of the Avas is they run off of an extension cord.
I absolutely hate that because it wasn't covered in anything. I had to look that up.
It's covered, and it's actually a plot point in the third or fourth episode.
I was so annoyed.
It's not.
I was trying to figure out why they all had cords on. Well, okay, this is later episodes because we don't actually see this.
Because they're basically giant walking vacuum cleaners.
So, Unit 01 appears. Sees the angel, charges at it. That's blah. End of episode.
Circling back to a couple of points in this episode, I know I started these in this particular note set with, okay, all jokes aside. But literally, okay, all jokes aside, there are two things I really love, as in the attention to detail, that go completely unacknowledged in this. And that is, in order of appearance, okay, I'm going to lay it out here. Misato is not an adult in every way that matters.
Mm-hmm.
She there's reasons, that's fine. I get it. I'm not faulting her for that. But I will say, choosing her to be the one to not only pick up Shinji, but send him a photo of herself, as in this is the face you're looking for, but pointing to her, specifically pointing to, this is what you're going to be looking at, shows she really understands a boy of his age.
Yeah.
Typical, the stereotypical boy of his age. And at the same time, ensuring that he is going to look for her, again, as a typical teenage boy of that age. The stereotype teenage boy. The other one is Ritsuko. We see her, initially scuba diving without context, coming out, and then it's like, hey, the PA system, hey, by the way, your friend and her pickup are lost. Go find them. And the sense of urgency in everything they're doing is such that she just throws on a lab coat on her way to get it, still wearing part of her diving gear, which I appreciate. That there's so many times you see other shows, regardless, anime or otherwise, okay, but I had time to get dressed and cleaned up to come find you. It's like, no, this is an emergency. We do not have time for the niceties. Find them, get them here now. And I love those little details.
Going back to that, she does send Shinji like a cheesecake picture of herself to be like, this is who you're looking for. This is who you're here to meet. But like, more than that, this is the very first time where, and this is recurring, is this idea of people heaping stereotypical male expectations onto Shinji, which is going to actually be like a conflict point for him, because like normally in an anime like this we would get the line of just like, oh, at least I'm going to be picked up by a real hottie. Shinji has nothing to say about that. Like, as soon as he meets her, like it's just like, wow, you're not as mature I thought you were going to be. Like, he is not psyched to being picked up by like the hot girl who knows that she's hot. Like, there is a very, this show has stuff to say about gender, and I am here for it. Also, like, you can notice it in a lot of the shot composition. Like, there are times when they're riding in the car where like you just get the shot of Misato's like leg and thigh and Shinji's face, and like every time you get a shot like that, which again in another anime would be like fan service cheesecake shot, Shinji is never interested in the big sexual thing in the frame. It's just like, oh yeah, like, oh, this is what the people want to see. But then if you pay attention, Shinji's not interested in it. It's just like, oh, I wonder what that's about. And that is a recurring theme, and I love to see it, and I will be talking about it again. Especially in the next episode when we get to hanging out with Misato at the apartment. So but yeah, that lets us slide smoothly into episode.
The ending theme song.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. We do have to talk about this.
Okay, so when Netflix got the distribution rights, they were not able to get, negotiations with the Sinatra, like, estate over paying for usage rights for covers of Fly Me to the Moon was not an expense that they decided to spend money on. So the closing theme, I believe, is now on Netflix. It's another like piano track from the original soundtrack or something.
It's absolutely horrible. I will just say it. It's just not for me.
Yeah, that's one thing a lot of people said, that it's just like it doesn't fit the vibes, and it's just like it doesn't fit at all. But yeah, originally, and I linked the one for the first and second episode in our notes. Each episode ends with a cover of "Fly Me to the Moon" sung by one of the voice actors from the show.
They have almost as many different versions of the ending theme as they have episodes, and that is just like, from a production standpoint, that is a wild thing to do.
I think I would have enjoyed that better. A
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, like it's sort of a case where like that was definitely, songs picked for reasons. and they put work into it, and then Netflix comes around and it's just like, we're doing it and we're making it better, and they just like throw that away, and it is such. I'm angry at that Netflix dub, so I'm gonna try and bite my tongue. But now we can slide into episode 2, Unfamiliar Ceilings, or The Beast.
All right, so who listened to the theme song every time? Raise your hand. It's me.
It's also me. That opening's a banger.
I mean, I'll tell you, but I'm going to also tell you why. For several reasons. I listened to it a couple of times, but honestly, especially with the Netflix version, I just hit skip because I've heard it before. It's not bad, don't get me wrong. I just, time is of the essence. And I don't have all day to be entertaining, especially when I watch both versions of the dub, to keep sitting there listening to it. It's again, kind of like the end credits. I'm going to skip them if it's available when I'm trying to watch essentially 10 episodes. Because it honestly does not have as much importance as people will put on it to what's going on in the story. I'm just going to say it. It's nice. The ending's fine.
I don't think it has importance. I just really like it, and I sing along with it every time.
And that's fine. I'm not here to rob anyone of that. I'm just saying for the fact it's like, I got things to do. I think the all-star of this really was the skip button. Not for any hate. It's just a matter of, it's not critical for me, so I will skip it. And I'll do that with other anime intros that I do like, because I've heard it. It's not changing. I'm good. So, Nick, I know you said, we have enemies. I don't think that makes us enemies. I just think that's a different approach to just time management.
You're the one who decided to watch them all twice, and also I'm pretty sure you're the first one who suggested we watch 5 episodes instead of our usual 4. Yes. So
that doesn't mean I need to sit there and listen to the intro that I've heard 1, 2, or 3 times over and over again. I'm just saying. I do this with any other anime that I like, so I don't see a problem with it. And this is one of those things I will put my foot down and say, this is the reason I'm glad I am not an otaku, because it is a stupid hill to die on. That I will say.
I'm just saying, when we're riding in the car together, I will put this on loop and not let you skip. That is what I'm saying.
Then I'm going to end up owing you a replacement for your whatever's playing it.
All right.
Because 2 or 3 times is fine. Consistently, especially out of some kind of spite or digging one's heels in, I won't suffer.
Okay, well then I'm just going to play What's New Pussycat 6 times in a row.
I mean, same effect.
Whoa.
Okay. Oh no, I saw where you're going. I just chose to ignore it. Like hitting the skip button.
So about this episode,
I listened to it 4 out of 5 times. And like Chuck, on the 5th time, it was more, I was getting to the end, it's like, okay, I can skip it this time. It's, we'll discuss the song when we get to the song.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. So, episode 2 opens, and we finally get the start of this fight with Unit 01 and the Angel. And, we first start off with Shinji learning how to walk. Apparently he just has to think about walking.
Yeah, there's a lot about like mental synchro rates. There are like joystick handles inside the cockpit, but it is definitely more about just like, visualize what you want to do, and it'll kind of just do it.
And it's a big deal that he takes his steps, apparently.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, did Ray just stand there?
I think there was a line to that effect about like, wow, he's at 70% on his first try. It took Ray a month.
Months to get to that point.
Yeah.
Like, she's been training for a while.
I apologize, Bob. This is a show you have to really pay attention to the dialogue on.
It just gives you more to appreciate on repeated viewings, that's all.
So, personally, I thought that Shinji would have the upper hand because protagonist. And that's not the case. The Angel comes at him.
That's what they want you to think.
They did a good job convincing me. They break the robot's arm, which injures Shinji, which makes you realize that's what happened to Rei.
Mm-hmm.
And the robot pushes, not the robot, the angel pushes the robot against the wall. So it shoots a spike through its eye.
Yeah, he's got like a pile driver thing in his arm that goes ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk.
And I thought at the time, once again, not paying super attention to the dialogue before, oil started shooting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, it's crazy. And you think everything's bad because Shinji is freaking out, and then he wakes up, and he is in a room. It is all too white, and I'm pretty sure that he's in heaven. We see the meeting of the Rainbow Warriors.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
having it's honestly a cool shot. I genuinely like it.
Yeah.
It's because of all the colors. They have a conversation about how the fight went while Shinji is walking around, I guess, a hospital recovering.
Yeah.
Because they had to recover the Shinji somehow. And, I mean, I feel really bad for Shinji trying to recover after that, especially when he sees his dad in the elevator, and his dad's just like, whatever, take the next elevator.
Oh my god, the vibes in that like 6 seconds where they're staring each other down are just atrocious. I love it. It's the worst.
You know, my dad wasn't an emotional man and never really hugged me a lot as a child, but I've never been mad dogged for doing a good job and earning an attaboy before. Holy shit.
Gendo's mad because he had to ask more than once for Shinji to get in the thing.
I mean, I'm not saying my dad didn't have inappropriate ways of reacting after repeating himself on a few occasions, but god damn.
Mm-hmm.
So, Misato ends up taking Shinji home, which they live in apartments that must be near the nerve center. Nerve.
Oh.
I love that you keep calling the nerves base the nerve center.
Mhm.
It makes me happy.
I believe shortly before this we see Misato and Tsuko? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tsuko. Have a conversation. Are you sure you want to do that? And Misato is like, yes.
Yeah.
Or
There's
maybe
this,
during this time.
there's this element of like part of like Misato's whole character conflict is that she has a heart and she like actually cares for these kids, but at the same time like she is driven by her job, which has the stakes of the world on it, to be like, no, you need to get these kids to do this job. So there's always this terror of just like, okay, she's trying to like, she actually cares for the kids, but at the same time, it is her job to like emotionally manipulate them into going into these fights, and that is a rough spot to be in. Like as compared to Gendo, who is just like, yeah, emotionally manipulate them. What's giving you trouble with that? She's like, I have a heart, and he's like, sucks for you.
Yeah, like he has completely thrown himself into, no, these are the ends. I will do whatever means necessary to get there. So I don't care what it takes.
There is a point relating to this later I do want to discuss. I'm not saying it necessarily diverges, but it's a point of interest.
Okay.
So we see Misato bringing Shinji home. Just so you know, Misato is definitely a work woman. Spends all of her time there. And her house shows it.
Mm-hmm.
She lives off of snacks and beer.
Mm-hmm.
And really doesn't do much cleaning.
Oh yeah, on the way back they stop at like a Super K or whatever to get
yes,
some
that's right.
to pick up dinner, and you get a little bit of like other people who live in the city, which is, it's basically like a military base. Like you have the military operation, but then you also have like regular living and shopping and stuff. But like they're talking about how like, oh man, like the city is like super protected, but it still doesn't mean it's totally safe, and maybe I should move after all.
When I was watching the original dub, I was wondering if in the revised dub, is there little talk over more specifically about like Shinji's performance? Because he definitely has a look on his face. It's just like, oh man, they don't like what I did.
Not that I recall.
No.
Okay.
I will say to Joe's note a little bit, and Dot's going to touch on it later, but now it seems appropriate. With Netflix, they do, because I watch with subtitles, bring in the background talk and type in the words there, like, for example, in the hospital, paging Dr. So-and-so to this room. When you're out in the world, different news points. And we are 33 episodes in, so I read every single one thinking that it mattered.
Mm-hmm.
So
they kind of do. Like it is some
They
of
can.
the yeah, some of them are very specifically like plot points that are suggesting the way that the world is evolving due to events in the show, but all of them definitely build a sense of just like tone about like what is the greater vibe outside the immediate environment of our characters, you know.
Gotcha.
The
And
the
it's
fact
a
that
nice
we are
touch.
still getting regular news reports says something.
Yeah, it's just after this many episodes, I'm sitting here thinking this all matters. This all matters. It's all pieces coming together.
We've broken you well.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly would love to get into like editing for subtitles and shit, because like I want to know more about how those decisions get made about like what to include and what not to include.
It just, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just my own focus on everything. Focus on everything.
Yep.
So Masato notices that Shinji is still a little down, takes him outside, and shows him a city. And at first, where they stop at, Shinji is like, okay, what's so great about this? And then Masato looks at her watch and says it's time, and the city comes out of the ground. Seems very unsafe to me.
Everything the light touches is your responsibility.
So this is sort of like the other half of something we actually saw in the first episode when they're riding in their car down the elevator to the nerve base. They pass through what they call the geofront. So basically the geography of Tokyo 3 is that there is a city on the surface who has skyscrapers that will descend underground in times of trouble and like danger in order to protect most of the buildings. But then in that underground point, it's actually there's like a bubble underneath the ground that is like this big cavern where so like you get the buildings hanging from the top inside of this geofront, but then there is a second ground down below, and that is where they have like the campus for the nerve base.
Kind of smacks of Hollow Earth.
A little bit of, well, it gets explained.
I'm not saying it doesn't get explained. I'm just saying it kind of smacks of it. It's the simplest way to think of it.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense for kaiju battle territory.
Yeah. Which, no, that's information we don't need to know now. I'll save it.
I just feel like it's asking for a collapse at any time.
Yeah.
I personally agree with you.
I hope that infrastructure's like real sound.
Listen, my problem comes from the fact, okay, these buildings pop up and out of the ground, right? Okay. Where's the plumbing and electrical running through?
It all extends as well. It's go-go gadget electric. Go-go
Like
gadget
those have to be some like non-metallic pipes.
Wow, way to judge their piping.
I'm just saying, like the infrastructure, the slightest thought does tear it apart.
It does. That's like 1 million shows, so.
You're not wrong. I'm not saying this is special for that. It's just, boy, this one really does it fast.
I could think of some ways that you could half-ass hand-wavy explain it. But we don't need to get into that. We're now in Misato's apartment.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely horrible. She has her garbage literally everywhere.
She's in her frat boy era.
Yeah, most of it is beer cans.
Shinji checks the fridges, and that's just what's in them.
Okay, we do have to talk about that fridge, though.
We have to talk about a
Yes.
couple of things in her apartment.
We need to talk about the question and response about the second fridge.
Yeah, in a second. First, we need to talk about. I really love this fridge, and it seems to make so much more sense than like
Oh, I agree.
the open cavernous fridges that most people have.
I
Because
like
it's like
It does
it's
not.
it's like a like we used to have these in the pantry where it's like an archive style shelf that you pull out and then you have the racks of things on it. But there's like
And they're
3
racks
of
of
them. Yeah, well for her,
Yeah.
so it's all beer.
It could be other things, Bob. She's in her frat boy era plus 10 years.
Yeah, but you can't like defrost a whole turkey in that fridge. That's the only problem.
No,
with it.
definitely.
No,
It
but for
would
space
totally-
efficiency.
Yeah, and like it would totally make sense to have like you know how you have the pull-out freezer sometime on the bottom of fridges.
Mhm.
Like if you had one of those for like at the bottom of the fridge, that's also a fridge, and then you have the shelves in the middle, and then the icebox on top. Like one of those would be perfect.
And considering how we see her living, Bob, this fridge makes absolute sense for her.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I will say, as we see time progress in the episodes, it does get cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, yeah. And Shinji just goes to his room, which she conveniently had for him. And I think right now is when they do get to supper. They have ramen, maybe?
Yeah, they have their microwave food feast.
Oh, that's right, because in Netflix, it's a TV dinner.
I
Wow.
gotta
God.
say, that's one of the few that stick out to me that just kind of rub me raw. But I will say, even ordering DoorDash, I feel more like an adult than she is.
Mm-hmm. No, she's living that absolute college dorm life. She is. Sometimes I wonder if she knows how to do her own laundry. You know.
Yeah, you get the person by the laundry machine to put it in and do it for you. You give them the money and you go away and you come back and laundry.
Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised. Like sometimes I think the Nerve organization kind of has like Google Campus vibes. It's just like, oh yeah, you need a haircut, you go to Nerve. You need dry cleaning, you go to Nerve. We got everything you need. Why are you leaving Tokyo 3?
I mean, I genuinely, that was my assumption from like first viewing from get-go, watching this. Like, this is just a hyper-effective military installation. Of course, they probably have someone that just comes in while you're gone and does the stuff.
And the one
Unless
who was
otherwise ordered.
the one who was assigned to Misato's just quit when she saw the mess.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in reference to Chuck's previous statement, that's where we got the question of what's in the second fridge. No, it was before this. What's in the second fridge is a penguin.
Mm-hmm.
What's in the second fridge is he's sleeping.
God,
Name, if I recall, is Pen Pen.
Yes.
Pen or Pen Squared, as his name tag suggests.
And I'll just get it out of the way now so I can get the flack now. I could care less about Pen Pen.
How dare you? This is my spirit animal. Living in a fridge, doing nothing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
What did she say? It's just like he's one of those new warm water penguins.
Yes.
Yeah, the implication is they've scienced penguins.
I don't know if he is like genetically altered or if he is like a breed that they are trying to sort of encourage. But yeah, like I want to say at some point in the greater series, you get it's a bit clearer that like the deal with Pen Pen is that because of they have serious climate change issues. It's more extreme than that, but needless to say, like Japan is all summer, and like when we see flooded buildings throughout the entire series, that's because the ice caps melted. So this is sort of it's a little less comfortable to look at in modern times, maybe, but like yeah, it is. There has been everything is hotter than it used to be. Ice caps have melted, and so like yeah, penguins are having a time of it, and Pen Pen is sort of like a very in your face reminder of that. I feel like that might actually be like his biggest purpose in the show is to reinforce that bit of world building.
I just know with the episodes we watched, he's served absolutely no purpose other than giving the stink eye to people.
That's right.
I mean, me at my front door looking out.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, she took him with her when she left her previous job.
Yep.
Yeah, about that previous job. Don't worry
Yep.
about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
That was a long time ago, like over a decade.
Yep.
So, it turns to night, and it's time for everyone to go to sleep. There's other scenes, but they're inconsequential other than showing that Shinji really hasn't gotten over this fight. So while laying in bed, we get to see him kind of flash back to what happened.
Yes, this is where we actually get to see the fight that happened.
The angel had grabbed Unit 01, broke its arm, stabbed it through the eye, and we think, oh, he's going to win. And even starts beating into 01's face. But 01 suddenly gets a little angry
Mm-hmm.
and gets his revenge.
It's Wolverine.
Grabs, pretty much. He repairs his arm, grabs the angel's arms, tears it apart, starts literally beating it,
Mm-hmm.
starts ripping stuff off, and it's, I wouldn't say gross.
Takes a Christianity bomb to the face.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, the angels explode, I think, when they realize they're going to lose. It's kind of a last-ditch effort. Think of the Angel N2.
The way this whole fight goes down is like some serious 2 a.m. outside the Waffle House parking lot style brawling more than anything else.
You ain't wrong. I was definitely thinking, it's like, I'll meet you out back behind the Denny's.
It's just like on the ground, punching faces. It's a dirty fight. It's great.
And because of the explosion, we see the mask fall off of Unit 01, and we see that it's actually a creature wearing armor.
Mm-hmm. He got meat under them armors.
I
Oh,
see you seeing me.
There's the bio and the biomechanical robot.
Uh-huh.
And the way the eyeball appears is just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's always fun to realize we're piloting an Eldritch Abomination in a suit.
No, it's not one of the old ones. They just built her. It's pretty new.
Uh-huh.
We go back to Shinji laying there, and Masato stops and says, "You do your job.
Attaboy. That'll do, pig. That'll do."
That was the most unsatisfactory attaboy, like, all things considered, ever, and not for any fault of her own.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say, you could tell she was trying to figure out what to say, and that's what came out. We've all had that moment of how do we talk to them? How do we talk to them? How do we talk to them? Good job.
Yeah. Oh my god.
That works.
All I can think about is like the last second is like, what should his father have said? Attaboy. It's like, holy shit.
But it's just the way that, like, we just got done watching him have this flashback of, like, this terrible trauma that he just went through and is like, oh, that really messed me up. And then immediately she comes in with the positive reinforcement being like, hey, good job doing that today. Which is just like, oh, it was good that I went through trauma? And that's not a good lesson either.
That is episode 2.
Yes, it is.
So I want to circle back on the Gendo story building quality of a man, in quotes, emphasis on quality or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
There was a point earlier between things. It was just kind of like a blink. I won't call it blink and you miss. It was a very short-lived moment around the dinner at Masato's apartment, where we get a glimpse back at Nerve headquarters, and we have Gendo talking with Ritsuko in a lab that's kind of blown out for reasons. And we essentially get I can apply one of my favorite jokes in one of the worst ways possible here. Is Ritsuko just literally asks, "How's Ray?" And Gendo essentially says, "It's 7:15."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, holy shit, dude. It's like, because now we have the context of Ray screwed up. We get the understanding from what happened at the beginning of the episode to Ava Unit 1 of, she felt that just like the mech did.
Yeah.
Cool. And now we get the response of 7:15, which is essentially the equivalent of, Shinji, I should give you attaboy, but what the fuck took you so long to get in the damn robot?
Well, because
Shit.
Gendo's actual response is she'll be ready to work again in 22 days. So what Ritsuko is asking is she recovered? Is she doing well? And Gendo says she will be ready to be used again in this amount of time. And it's just like, oh, you don't... Oh, Gendo, you don't see people. Oh, you just... Okay.
That's why I'm going to the 7:15. It's like, I heard your question. I did not process what you are asking.
Mm-hmm. I answered the question that I cared about.
Mm-hmm. And oh my god, I just like that's like, even if for any reason we had chosen to skip episode 1, like that right there is enough summation of who Gendo.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, here you go. You don't even need to go through the whole series. This is who Gendo is. That's all you need.
But that's another scene where, like, what they're talking about and what we are being shown on screen is so, like, they are related, but in a way that hasn't been explained yet. So, like, you get this sort of, like, A and B split attention that it makes it easy to miss either side of what that scene is showing you. Because for those, that we are who, watching along, what we're actually getting shown is, and we don't fully know this yet, but that is Unit 0 in a, like, test chamber where it's been frozen. Yeah, it's been frozen in a pose that kind of suggests it was trying to get out, which is that's interesting. I think I just thought there was something interesting about that,
Speaking of, you reminded me of something I wanted to touch on in episode 1 that we kind of glossed over, is when we talk about reaching out like it's trying to get out. We had a scene where we see the silhouettes of Ritsuko, Masato, and Shinji riding up an elevator behind with this kind of pinkish background, and there's just this hand reaching out that no one seems to take notice of or explain.
Shinji's too busy reading his new nerve manual.
And it's very telling in that of the 3 people there, either, this can be read as one of 2 ways. I know how I read it. Either A, there's the read that, oh, no one's really paying attention, or B, this is only unusual to one of the 3 present, and that one's not looking.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so unnerving. It's so foreshadowing. Oh, it's so good.
I also do want to touch on more Ava mechanics here because this gets repeated later. This whole, like, have you ever been so tilted that you just dead ass launch yourself ass first at an opponent, but somehow wrap your legs around them and start wailing on them? I have zero problem with this because it's so unique to this series, and it's both cool and it's completely laughable because it's just like, air shoots up, here I go.
Yeah, there's some things like it is a maneuver that the Ava performs that says 3 things. 1, this is an extremely organic being in the way that just, like, limbs are flopping and there's leaping and joints and muscles and everything. B, this is very unsettling because it looks kind of like a person. This is not a way that people move. And C, it is very, like, it gives such a sense of, like, the weight and scale of these creatures just in a way of, like, launching and airtime and, like, impact damage when they land. It is, it's so good. These fights are so good.
Now you press the scale button. That's one of my other problems in the series is the scale of these robots is inconsistent.
That has never bothered me. Like, if
It's
nobody
one of those-
pointed it out, I would have never noticed.
It occurred to me during my first viewing, and that's what led me to go back and do my second viewing. Once I finished, like, oh no. And it's like, once I hit certain environments, I'm like, oh, I'm noticing this. I can't not see it.
See, now, the thing that I want to wrap back to before we leave this episode is talking about that dinner feast again. Because they're having their, like, chat over dinner and talking about, this is what it means if we're going to live together. And you gotta make sure you can't just apologize all the time. Shinji, like, they're basically having, like, small talk, trying to become buddy-buddy, whatever. But a thing that happens here is we get another moment of Misato going, "You're a boy, act like one." And it's a lot of, like, again, people trying to shove gender onto Shinji. This is another shot where the camera work is all, like, Misato is in her after work clothes. She's in basically like a tank top and some cut off jeans that just put her entire cleavage and ass out there. Which Misato was definitely the one I had a crush on when I was young. Forget the girls of a certain age. Misato's the cool one. Maybe that's just me. Okay, all right. I feel better now. But, like, these are definitely shot, like, they just put between the posing and the camera location, they are very purposely putting, tits and ass on screen. These are fan service shots. These are essentially what the picture she sent to Shinji was promising. But this is another case where, like, in the shots where this is happening, she is, like, yelling at Shinji and looming over him, and his face is one of discomfort, not of just like, oh man, look at all of the tits and ass I'm seeing. He's just like, I don't know what to do here. Which, again, like, everyone has gender expectations of Shinji, and, like, one of his internal conflicts is that he will fail to meet them for pretty much the entire series, more or less. Or when he does meet them, it kind of gets worse because you get that thing of like, well, I can do it right sometimes. What's wrong with me that I can't do that all the time? Which, again, resonates way too well for some of us out here in the audience.
I mean, to your point about the fan service, they even go so far as at the end of every trailer for the next episode include some form of referencing, I'll include more or extra or fan service, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always Misato.
It's always Misato. So with that, which is a great way to segue when you don't actually remember what the last thing said was, we're moving into episode 9, Mind Matching Moment, or Both of You Dance Like You Want to Win.
So this is my introduction to a young lady who will not remain anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
This is our good friend and great confidant Asuka.
Asuka Langley Shoryu.
No. Bob gets it right
Asuka?
this time.
Is it Asuka or Asuka?
It's supposed to be Asuka. But the attitude doesn't warrant respect.
So
listen.
So we're introduced.
She's going through some stuff.
Yeah, no, she's a great example of characters I hate because they're well written versions of something.
Also, I'm just going to get this part out of the way. Asuka is touted as like one of the most archetypical tsunderes in anime. I'm sorry. No, she is just a bitch. She is not a tsundere. She is a bitch. She is unnecessarily cruel and mean.
She is
There's
just entire. Like if you did a Lilo and Stitch picture, like she does of a Stitch's evil level. If you did one of those of Asuka, it would just be all trauma.
So I will note with Asuka, she's introduced as the German foreign exchange student. At a certain point, just loses her German accent altogether, except for when it's brought up.
Mm-hmm.
So get used to hearing a non-German accent from this German girl who doesn't even have a German name.
Well, okay, so she does. Her last name is Langley Soryu because she's um German, but also Japanese.
She's
One parent
actually
German, one parent Japanese.
not that many people know this, but she is actually the inspiration for the opening line in Weezer's El Scorcho, where he says, "God damn you half Japanese girls."
Never heard it.
Shut the fuck up.
I I don't know if I'm lying. That's a scary part.
I mean, if that's your only exposure to a half Japanese person in general, yeah, no, I could kind of understand that.
and we can get to this in a minute. I'm sure this will be in our final thoughts, but like this show definitely, like, for as much as it like structures itself around anime tropes, like the who will Shinji pick between Rei and Asuka is absolutely like what they're setting up for here. And I think there was a large portion of the audience who was going with Asuka. Not those with refined palates like ourselves who knew Misato was the correct choice.
Oh, Misao's the correct choice. Shinji shouldn't need to touch her. I mean, there's a concerning age gap there.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I don't.
I'm trying to remember because like Ritsuko is also like, if you want a real cougar, Ritsuko was your choice, I guess. Listen,
Itsuko's also present.
there is a lot of discussion on forums in the aughts about all of this.
And I'll be honest, this is actually one of the things about Ava that I'm glad I wasn't around for when it was at its height. Because it's one of those, like, I have zero patience for that. It's
Yeah.
like, it's okay if you like who you like, that's cool. I'm not going to fight you on it, and I'm not going to argue with you about it, and I'm definitely not going to let you listen to anyone tell me, it's like, oh, you're wrong for your opinion.
Yeah. Like, honestly, like, when I really have my druthers, I think that Shinji is also, like, an example of asexual representation in anime, but because of his interaction with one specific character, that is really an uphill battle, because there's definitely people who are like, oh, he's absolutely gay, and I'm like, I think he's not gay for that character because of attraction, but because like that is the first character who's truly nice to him, and I don't think that counts for gay, but that's me.
I don't know this reference. I do know.
You don't. We
point
didn't
where
watch this episode. It's a good episode.
He showed affection towards someone else at a certain point in the episodes we did see, but I think there's probably a strong case for he's just not active in that way.
Yeah.
He's a teenage boy who is basically just being traumatized regularly and trying to live as normal a life as he can around that. I don't blame him for not really being able to connect with people or have interest in sexuality or anything. And I think that's also part of him not being typically masculinized.
Yeah, I would
Yes.
say, considering what you learned through the series about, and as we covered earlier, being abandoned at a young age by your father, and mother for various reasons not in the picture, who could say? Your sense of value and worth is already taking such a hard hit. The idea of being loved or capable of being loved is essentially non-existent at that point. I don't care who Shinji had raising him, considering the nature of the world he is in. There was no way they were breaking him out of that.
Yeah.
So I would say, because I would argue there's plenty of instances where he shows sexual interest in women, but because of who he is and the damage he carries with him, he just doesn't express it very well. And at the same time lets it go because, like, I'm not worthy.
I think, see, that's the thing. I think there are definitely times when he's like showing, that he's like a teenage boy and you know how they are. But I think exactly to that point, it is as much about the idea of being like a sex crazed little goon is a very stereotypical thing for a teenage boy to be. And so much thematically about this show is about, Shinji having gendered expectations put upon him and his own sense of like, I am failing to meet it, and if people weren't expecting of me, I wouldn't be trying to meet it. So in those moments of the show, I feel like that is not necessarily like his pursuit of any of that is more a effect of like the
byproduct of his place and gender, physical sex in the world.
The expectation put upon him that he's like, oh right, I'm supposed to care about this, aren't I? And
he's definitely in a state of self-discovery. I won't deny that. I will also say I'm not sure I can credit Anno being that insightful on that level for this character back in 1995.
That's a fair thing to consider. Yeah, actually.
Like if this was written in the last 5 years, I would say no, that was absolutely consideration back then. And considering, spoiler, Bob Anno based this character kind of on himself, Shinji, I very much doubt, and especially comments Anno has made about his opinions about the female sex, the female gender. I very much do not believe this was a consideration of his. I appreciate that it can be read that way, and I do not discredit any read of that. I want that to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot give him credit for being that insightful.
Sure. It's definitely something interesting to look at in like a in-depth breakdown of Eva. So.
Oh yeah, very much so.
For me, I just view it as he's a young teenage boy. We have Jessica, who's a young teenage girl, and even Ray is a young teenage girl. I always plant them in the same group. Masato, probably around 21, is not trying to do anything forward to Shinji. It just works out that way. So I wouldn't particularly put those two together.
Mm-hmm. That's why I say, like, in that whole shipping thing, I was like, no one, it's like, no shipping. I just want Masato. Let's take her out of this universe. We'll talk her.
Masato is 29.
Really?
Wow, that's okay. Kudos, Anno. Yeah, I was like, that's pretty progressive for in Japan and an anime in 1995.
For her to be that old or that young?
Elder.
Yeah,
for her to be that old.
Well, there are lore reasons that she can only be so young, actually, because she has to be 15 years older than an age where she would remember things and have that be a major part of her motivations.
For reasons.
Reasons.
Yeah. And to be fair, though, I'm glad Anno and anyone else responsible in the creation of this took that into consideration and didn't try and say, oh no, she's a super genius, whatever, baby. It's like, no, she's just 29.
Mm-hmm.
So along with Atsuko, we get her handler, is the best way I can put it, Kaji. And he is something else. I got the feeling that him and Ritsuko are together. But he's...
no, the three of them know each other, but he and Masato used to be together.
I know. You get a feeling that Masato remembers that they were together and has feelings about that.
Uh-huh.
They all do. But Ritsuko's more of the... I appreciate Ritsuko being the straight man in this group of... Just do it already. Get a room and do it. Just get it over with. And the scene you're leading into, Bob, with the flirtatious nature of Kaji and Ritsuko, their history being that she knows he's like this, and she's just letting it go because she knows he's 100% not serious, and she's okay with it. Or at the very least, she doesn't give any sign that she's not okay with it. Is the expression then of Masato pressed up against the glass. Like a kid at a candy store, or watching someone pick up the last of the favorite toys they wanted to buy that week with their allowance, is just... I have known those. I've known people like that. I've known those couples, and those are interesting relationships to watch from a distance. But I still
so
love
we
it.
have that short. We have that scene, and then another angel, because monster of the week, is attacking, and we got to see Jessica in her Eva. Eva?
Ava.
You guys say Ava, even though it's an E.
Yes.
Evangelist. Ava.
Yes, because it's pronounced Evangelion.
Actually, to be fair, that's also in the show that it's the Evangelion.
Uh-huh.
And trust me, that whenever I read it, up until this point, it was Evangelion.
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 If anyone ever heard me say it and was very caring about this show, would probably have given me a death glare.
Even I'd say the unfortunate part of most otaku, at the very least, they would not only give you the death glare, they would actively correct you and make sure they knew you were upset. They upset them.
So the angels have appeared, and Asuka and Shinji show up with their Evas, and we get introduced to Asuka's impulsive nature.
Mm-hmm.
She just goes in straight on attacks because Shinji's like, hey, we should stay back and study.
Fire.
She beats it up with a super kick, and it splits into two.
You gotta admit, she is so full of herself and is driven by having to prove herself, but she is a fantastic pilot, actually.
She has caught on to her Eva pretty well.
Yeah.
She is definitely one of those people that knows she's good at what she does, and I won't even say doesn't apologize for it, but is going to make sure you also know just how good she is, and thus is insufferable.
Yeah. Ugh.
So it splits in two, and we got a cutaway to having a meeting about how the Evas failed.
We're debriefing now.
Tell us about how things may have gone upside down.
Quite literally, I don't know how, but both the Evas ended up crashed on their heads in the ground with just their feet in the air.
I love this Looney Tunes level bullshit.
I don't know if the angels just picked it up and went boom, or what. Because usually the angels seem about complete destruction, but not this time.
Well, I love it because just the way that the voiceover is describing it is just at 10:28 a.m. Unit 1 landed, cuts into slide, and 27 seconds later, Unit 2 landed, cut to other slide, and it's just oh, y'all got wrecked instantly, huh? All right, okay.
So they had to use another non-nuke to stop the angel for a minute.
Yes.
I don't understand is so the angel fused together again?
Nope.
Yes.
There is two? Because there's only one, then.
It is one that can split into sort of two autonomous creatures.
And then came back together off screen?
Because when they start to fight later, it's going to start out as one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Somehow I literally blinked and missed that part.
I don't think she cut it all the way through. She cut it halfway down. So when it healed back together.
Something like that.
I wish I could.
So Sato is like, okay, to win, you two, referencing Shinji and Asuka, need to work together at the same time. This is at least the plan. To do this, her and Ritsuko have a plan. And the plan we see comes together with Shinji coming home and finding that Asuka is moving in.
DHL product placement.
Mm-hmm. Which, and this is one of my favorite moments, and this is when I, my third time watching these episodes, this is the first time I caught that the shot right before Shinji comes home and opens the door is him walking down the street as the DHL truck is driving away, and I was just like, oh, that is amazingly foreshadowing. That is the show is just so dense and so rapid fire. This is a show that does not linger on anything. Like, we've seen so many shows where it's just like, oh, here's what's happening, and we're going to show 3 other characters having an internal monologue to sort of break down the very specifics of what is happening. This is not that show. This show is just like, yeah, something happened. Yeah, there was a hint on screen about what just happened, but we're already past that.
A terrible thing has happened and you don't realize it yet.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, next time you watch this, you're gonna go, oh, okay. When you come back around with new context to look for.
So Asuka moves in and literally takes all of Asuka's stuff and puts it in the hallway because she figures he's getting kicked out. He got fired because they failed.
She just makes an assumption about, like, yeah, you're out, Shinji. Sorry.
And Shinji's not taking it too well, and Ku gets home and it's like Misato gets home and it's like, hey, you guys are both living here now, and they both do not like that. And throughout this episode, we see Asuka kind of be verge racist to Japanese culture.
Mm-hmm.
Self-hating.
Like, how come they have sliding doors instead of doors with locks? And how do they sleep on the floor?
I'm not going to lie. I forget she's German in that moment. I'm like, I didn't think she was American is literally the thought that I have. Like, because like I've known, especially growing up in the 90s and the 80s, it's like, this is every traveling, like, middle-aged couple.
Yeah. I just love the burn, because she's doing this complaining, and then Misato, who's been out until this point, just appears behind her like magic and just delivers just like, oh, well, the Japanese culture is very much about considering other people, and just like I just jumped out of my chair. I was just going, oh, running around the room. It's just like, yeah, Asuka, have you thought about that? I said Asuka.
And she deserved it.
She deserves more than that. Not better, just more.
So to get the two synchronized as Asuka wants, they are going to do a dancing game, essentially.
You ever played Twister to Save the World?
They are just failing miserably at it. Of course, Asuka is blaming Shinji the entire time. And I think it's actually Misato who points out, hey, that's not true. Rei step in for Asuka, and Rei keeps time with Kaiju, oh my goodness, Shinji, at the same speed. Like, they are going fast, if I recall. It's just a slower version, but they're doing good at the same time.
Yeah, like with Rei,
and
he's
Asuka gets
perfectly
upset about
insane.
this. Yeah.
Which, like, this goes back to just Misato has to be like manipulative, and she's good at it.
I don't know if I'd call this manipulative, but it almost makes me think of like an actual sports coach, like even like a high school or college level coach saying, "Oh, you can't do this, Jones off the bench. You do this and that. Oh yeah, I guess that couldn't be done, huh?"
Well, like, it's absolutely like, because the friends have come to check up on Shinji and Asuka because they haven't been in school and they did not realize they were living together. And hey, can we real quick, can we address the outfits that Shinji and Asuka are dressed in when they open the door?
Go on.
It's the peak of fashion.
80s workout. I love it.
Yeah.
This is the best Shinji will ever look.
In my notes, I even included like, oh, bold of you to both go out in public like that.
Uh-huh.
And they talk at the same time.
Yeah, they're already surprisingly in sync.
It's Trunks and Goten failing the fusion dance until they get it right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Rei was not with the friends when they showed up to check in on them, so Rei is only there because Misato must have invited her specifically to goad Asuka into being like, no, you're better than this. You're better than Rei, aren't you? Because she knows that that's going to motivate her. Nothing motivates the girl as much as spite.
But we got scenes of Shinji and Asuka slowly getting more and more in sync to the point where they've got it covered. And I believe we transitioned to a night scene where Shinji is just sleeping in bed. Somehow Asuka ends up in bed with him.
Go ahead.
And I don't quite get that correlation there.
So, okay.
Isn't this? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So, like, I think it's Shinji comes home. And no, Asuka comes home and Shinji says, "Hey, Misato said she's going to be at work all night." And so it's just like, "Oh, the kids have the house all to themselves." And what Asuka does is immediately picks up her bedding because they've been sleeping, the three of them, in the same room. But she picks up her bedding and moves to the other room, and it's just like boys and girls. Was it boys and girls over the age of 7 shouldn't sleep with each other?
Yeah,
And it's the Great Walls of Jericho.
Yes.
Yeah, I love this classic comedy trope of we're splitting the room and here's the DMZ, no boys allowed. I'm like, there's a part of me that wants to watch this series where Shinji wages like a war of expansion trying to just take over that side of the house.
Yeah. But so in the middle of the night, Shinji is listening to track 25 and 26 as he is wont to do. There's a reason for that. Don't worry about it. And
It's explained in something we didn't watch too.
it's
A
not.
lot is explained elsewhere.
It's not an invert universe thing, it's more of a meta thing.
Yeah, it's.
So you don't really need to worry about it.
We can talk about that once you watch the whole series.
Okay.
And then, but so in the middle of the night, Shinji's laying there. Asuka gets up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and she's like basically sleepwalking. So she comes back and falls into his bed because she has been sleeping in the big room for, the last couple of weeks or whatever. So, half asleep, that's what she's used to. Not the...
But is she half asleep?
Well, is she?
Anyway, that's cutting to the future.
Uh-huh.
Because we see her lay down next to Asuka, and Asuka's like, "Oh, this is interesting. I am having strange feelings," and starts leaning in for a kiss. And it's like, "Oh, this is the moment." And everyone goes, "Ah!" And then Asuka, I don't know what she lips, but she says something that Shinji's like, "Oh, nope, never mind," and sleeps on the floor.
She says "mama"
and starts to cry. And Shinji's like,
Hey, Satan.
So at some point off screen, Kaji must have imparted the eternal wisdom onto Shinji of don't stick your dick in crazy.
So we get done with the scene with Shinji sleeping on the floor next to Asuka, and we see an elevator with the other lovely couple of Kaji and Misato. Now, Kaji, just with introduction and continuing on, just gives creeper vibe.
Mm-hmm.
He is no one's friend. And Misato's like, no. Kaji's like, come on, you know you want it. And it's just, ugh.
Your lips say no, but your hips say yes. Oh, fucking... Hey,
that PSA. Always listen to what someone says.
Uh-huh. Respect wishes.
I agree.
Respect autonomy.
I 100% agree. And maybe I'm looking at this from a perspective of I know these two from the rest of the series, and I'm not sure she's actually being genuine. Not my place to say. And again, I've known couples like this, and I could see it being not a serious thing. I still agree. Yes, she says no, you back the hell off. You don't do shit. You say no, cool, all right. I don't know, man. I've known people like this, and I don't know if I get a solid read one way or the other on it. But I do agree. Yes, once she says no, just no.
I like knowing, having seen the show and knowing more about like Kaji's background and what his real role in the situation is, and also just seeing like where their relationship goes, because there is like a rekindling that ends up happening because Kaji is around for a while. Like, I don't think it is. Ultimately, I think it is a pretty like interesting relationship arc, and I think that there is, something complex and interesting and somewhat realistic in there. But in this moment, fuck Kaji, piece of shit. I hope he gets what's coming to him.
Who could say?
Who could say?
But yeah, like I said, I agree. She says no, you stop. It's just again, I'm looking at this as a whole, not a piece. Their relationship is incredibly unhealthy.
Yeah. But like, again, in a way that's like, in a way that's kind of real and resonates. And there, like even when you look at it as like the setting of what it is, like they are at the end of the world, more or less. They are exes. Like they have had good times in the past and they are under, extreme stress and very anxiety driven, and like, yeah, there actually does make a lot of sense that it's just like, hey, I remember I had good times with this person and I need something like that now. So the like exes rekindling makes a lot more sense here than in a lot of other movies and shows that I've seen. So like I'm willing to give it a lot of runway here. But here in this scene, first time we see it, I hate the man.
Yeah, like I said, I'm looking at it as a whole, not a singular, but I agree. First blush, I agree. It's like, dude, just chill.
Mm-hmm.
That, and when we see Masato and Ritsuko later, Ritsuko is like kind of, I wouldn't say doubting Thomas, but it's just like, that poor Masato.
I
Masato's
get
allowed to have her mood.
Oh yeah, my read from Ritsuko is like, so this is happening again.
Uh-huh.
Which is again why I kind of come away with like, I think we're seeing people doing things that they're expected to say, or what they feel like they're supposed to say, but not really being honest with themselves. Who could say?
Kaji, I still do not. Hold on. That being said, we move to Attack Day, and we actually get to see Unit 1 and Unit 2. Shinji and Asuka pulling it off. We get the music that they trained to. They're doing backflips, they're shooting. We finally got to see a super cool jump in the air with a flying kick. And we switch, and it failed.
Well, it did work, though, because they defeated the enemy. They just sort of, it didn't stick to landing, so it were.
And Asuka just continues to blame Shinji for messing things up. And that's when you realize that Asuka is just, she's not a good person with this episode.
I believe the phrase is "go to hell."
And that is this episode.
Yep. I want to talk a little more about Misato and Ritsuko at the bar.
Okay.
Because
it's a good bar, Brunt.
It's a good... So, like, if you look out the window, they are at a bar in one of those skyscrapers hanging from the top of the geofront, and that view is just amazing. I want to hang out at that bar. But, like, this is such a good, like, revealing character moment for both of these characters. Like, we already know that they have this, like, old friends, like, pains in the ass but inseparable kind of dynamic.
For full context, the three of them, Kaji, Ritsuko, and Misato, were college friends.
There you go. But yeah, just this little bit of girls' night. We see how like Ritsuko is the brains, but she is just like, she's your jaded friend. Like, she was born jaded, and I think that comes through like whether they're talking about like, oh, we gotta go reset the arms on the Avas, or when it's talking about, oh, so you and Kaji still have some embers in your relationship, huh? It's just like, yeah, she just sees it, she knows, and she's just like, well, so it is.
Did you two order a cleanup for the elevator yet?
Mm-hmm. You know,
I mean,
you left a
honestly,
mess back there.
So again, kind of circling back to what I was saying a minute ago, it's like we saw Misato full face plant against the glass. We saw the elevator scene here, and then we see this, and it's like, God, she absolutely is right when she says, "No, we shouldn't be doing this." Like, yes, you really shouldn't be. You two, therapy is tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole
Y'all.
premise of this show is that everyone needs fucking therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say it. I was trying to save that part for later. But yeah, it's just like, God,
I don't think Pen Pen needs therapy.
Pen Pen needs to be my pet, my roommate, and yes,
Pen Pen is kind of a subject of an experiment, and he might be one of the few left of his kind, or one of the first of his kind, depending.
I'm not convinced he's not God.
He has to live with humans because there's not a lot of other of his kind around. That also messes with a person or penguin. Are penguins people? That's for a different episode to decide.
Pen Pen is.
Pen Pen is people. He has his own apartment and a refrigerator. He's people.
He has a sub apartment
I'm
like
not even
Bender.
going to debate that. I don't care for him, but he's definitely people.
He's people. He's one of us. One of us.
Listen, he took a shower on his own
We did.
and shut it off.
We did not even talk about the diegetic dick
Music.
censoring of the shower scene with Shinji. I don't know why. Like, in terms of like how at the early part of the show, it is so still like waka waka normal anime, and it's just like he's like, oh, there's a penguin in the shower, and he's butt naked, and there's like
Oh, that's
the beer can in
a
front
pop
of his
can or whatever.
junk. Yeah. And then Misato picks it up, and there's a jar of toothpicks behind it that's smaller but still covering him. And it's just like, wow, okay, you just putting our boy on blast here. Okay.
Just merciless there, bro. That was cold.
Uh-huh. The show didn't have to put him on
That's why
blast like
it's so
that.
small.
Uh-huh.
Hi-oh.
That's why it's a jar of toothpicks, because, you know, like toothpicks?
Toothpick.
Yeah, this show is...
Also, I'm not convinced he's even hit puberty yet.
How old are they?
14.
Okay.
I think that's fully established is that to be a child, you need to be 14.
Yes. Did we... I don't want to play Age of Consent in Japan in 1995. No. I don't want to play that game right now.
Yeah.
No.
But
I will spoil something for Chuck and Joe, is that I did do some research for this show.
Go on.
No, I'm going to save it for the end, but just know that I did. So that's how I know the age on that.
That's fine. Listen, after some episodes where it surprised me that you did, I fully am going in with there is a good chance Bob has done some additional homework on this.
The homework I did was for something else we'll discuss later.
Fair enough.
I do want to say I was super excited to see what the outcome of this, like, the vibe check on this show was going to be, simply because, like, it is so rare that Chuck and I are, like, of a kind in our enjoyment of a thing. So knowing that this was a show where we lined up, it's just like, all right, everything's out the window now. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea where we're landing as a group.
Sorry, boo.
I'm just gonna say it's a show. It's a show.
It is so much show.
I will also. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Much show, very anime.
I'm going to drag us back to this episode, though, real quick, because as I flip through my notes, there was a specific part of this episode that I'm sure I've noticed it every single time, but I think it's just been just long enough since I rewatched this pre-COVID that I just faded into non-existence in my brain. And that's during the initial fight with the angels.
Mm-hmm.
And Misato just full on says what the audience is thinking, and is like, what is this bullshit?
Mm-hmm.
was like, fourth wall-esque.
Oh my god.
Yes.
And she has her little like earpiece that she crushes in her hand like she's doing the over 9,000 thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
I love it. I love those kind of moments. Like, I'll eat this up every day.
Such a good shot. Actually, while we're talking about Misato expressions, when Ritsuko comes up and says, "Hey, actually Kaji, think about that, Misato," comes up and says, "Hey, we got a plan for dealing with this angel." It's while we're going over to Misato's desk, where it is piled up completely with complaints and bills from like the fallout of the failed fight to begin with. And like, not only is that just like a great bit of like reminder that like, hey, there's a world outside of these rooms at Nerve, and also they don't like the stuff going on. But basically the thing is that like in the last episode, Gendo and his second in command there have Fuyutsuki, they've gone out to do keikaku stuff, but so like Misato is in command while he's gone.
Bob, kaikaku means planned.
No, it's all according to Cake.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I was like, yes, the kakaku or whatever.
The kookaburra.
According to Cake.
They're going to be shooting a bird. I'm so confused.
But so like,
Shoot it did.
She's in charge. She has to deal with this. Clearly, we already know she can barely keep her own life in line. This is just another mess that occurs around her. But there's this one shot where she is doing the Gendo pose while she's sitting at that desk. And I'm just like, oh, she's trying to do Gendo's job. It's something about the position that makes you do the fingers folded in front of your face, I guess.
It reminded me very much of a child trying to pretend it's an adult by doing things that adults do in front of it.
Yes.
I was going to notably say that Gendo's sort of like a father figure to her.
Gendo is everyone's shitty dad.
Yes, you gotta be to someone, I guess.
Unhappy Father's Day, and it's just a Hallmark card with Gendo on the front.
For all my dad's flaws, suddenly he seems like a real genuine award winner comparatively.
Oh my god. All right, do we have anything else to say about this episode?
I was looking at something. Just little comments like when we were doing the montage. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that watches South Park, but the first thing I thought of when I saw this, it was the montage song from the Aspen episode. It's like I couldn't not hear that on both watches. And it's just like, in fact, I think on the second one, I just kind of had my phone and pulled it up and just had it playing for kicks and giggles on my part. And there was also before that at the great showing up of Asuka, Hikari essentially assigning blame to Shinji for something not his fault.
Yes,
which
absolutely.
Really
oh my god.
Seems to be, go figure. Really seems to be a running theme here of, wow, Shinji, be more of a man. You should apologize because this is your fault that someone else proved her wrong. How dare you?
Yeah, like school chum class rep Hikari over there. She is a character who still thinks she's in like a normal anime. She don't even know.
Yeah, you ain't wrong there.
She is the one that visits them during the montage, correct?
Yes.
She's something else.
Pigtail, she's gonna appear pretty prominently in the next episode we watch.
Freckles.
It's like the two boys that hang out with Shinji.
Yes.
Kensuke and Toji.
In this selection, we did skip over a lot of the response with them. They play a bigger part in the episode before this one, which is Asuka's actual introduction. But I thought because of the whole the way this episode opens, it like her being introduced at school. Yeah. How can you explain Asuka, really?
I mean, 1 word, 5 letters.
With a psychology textbook.
Rhymes with witch. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And that will bring us into episode 18, Life and Death Decisions. Or, those women longed for the touch of others' lips and thus invited their kisses.
Each other's lips?
I
choose to believe that.
Sure. I mean, I think each other is included in others is.
Yeah. No, that's it now. Narratively, that's the canon.
Yeah, there we go. It's funny because I think this episode actually has less Kaji, Ritsuko, Misato interactions than was it the last one? Yeah, it must have been the last episode.
Yeah, this one is probably as wholesome as they come for the most part. Or let's say as straightforward as they come. Because, I'm just gonna say we have perfectly normal clouds in the sky.
It's normal weather as we see them flying an Ava in through the clouds, just kind of bringing it in, and it's explained that this is Unit 5, I believe.
4.
Is it 4?
3.
3, because they
Okay, because
it
4
was 0.
Right. 584, and then they both went boom.
Yeah, so the rundown is we have Unit 0, which is Ray's, which is the prototype.
I thought hers was 0.
That's what I just said.
I'm sorry, my brain just heard 1.
No. And then we have Unit 1, which is Shinji's, which is the purple one, which looks awesome. And then we have Unit 2, which is the red one because it's Asuka's. So now we're getting Unit 3 brought in from, I forget where they're coming from, but like they've been upping production because of all the angels attacking.
Where was...
I thought it was from America.
Oh, America is the one that disappeared.
I know America had one disappeared, but I thought it had a second one.
They might have had a second one?
It sounds like an American thing to do, too.
To have the most. Yeah, it's the they're not quite mass producing them yet, but at this point we're really getting the learning that like, yeah, there's nerve bases all around the world that are developing their own units. And this is the one that they're ready to try firing it up. And so they're shipping it into a different Japanese base where they're going to try launching it from.
So, for point of reference, Unit 03 was constructed at the Massachusetts, USA branch of NERV.
Okay. The northeastern mech.
Okay, so...
New England mech.
They built a Ava at MIT, and they're flying it over.
Forget about it.
We kind of transition into a short home scene with Shinji chatting, and oh my goodness, Misato and Shinji have a conversation about how Asuka, sorry, brain blank, Asuka wasn't there because she had already taken off. Apparently, Misato did something in a previous episode that Asuka is kind of avoiding both of them.
If I remember. Sorry, never mind.
Very good. It's in this conversation we find out that the North American branch, who knows, California, Texas, pick a big place, which Japan would know, got destroyed, along with their Ava there, which implies that this whole angel attack is global. It's not just localized to this one area.
Well, we'll get into that.
There's a higher density over Japan for reasons.
Could be anything.
Who knows?
Obviously, with a new Ava, there's going to be a new pilot. And Shinji has absolutely no idea who it could be.
And only Shinji.
Quite literally, we're going to find out throughout the episode that apparently he's just not allowed information that everyone else gets to have.
Well, he Kensuke, and I just said her name in the other episode.
Oh, class rep.
Friend.
Yeah,
class rep. Those are like the only 3 that aren't in on it. Everyone else knows.
And like everyone else knows from a combination of like either being in Nerve and having access to that sort of information, or just like rumor and hearsay that all turns out to be true.
Or in Asuka's case, literally barging in the room and looking at the computer screen over someone's shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm telling you, the girl needs to learn boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd have a short scene with Misato and Ritsuku going to work or away from work. They never really say where they're going, but they have a conversation.
They are going to the other Japanese base where Unit 3 is being brought to, because they're not going to launch it from the Nerve headquarters into Geofront. They're going to do the like test run of that unit, I don't know, 2 cities away.
Gotcha. Ritsuko, sorry, has kind of given Misato a little bit of grief because you can tell that Misato cares a little bit. We developed this a little bit later. But in this particular instance, Misato is just concerned for the new Ava pilot because they have their reason for being an Ava pilot, which is family, but Ritsuko is just giving her a little bit of grief.
He has. So I think this is specifically when, if we had been watching the other episodes, we would have already known that the new pilot is specifically Toji. But here, for our selection, I believe this is where we hear it explicitly. And I do want to point out that he has little sister needs new legs-itis, which is a surprisingly common affliction for anime main characters to come down
He's
with.
a Joey Wheeler.
Sister has problem A. Brother will do thing B to solve problem A.
He's trying to get her little sister some Lieutenant Dan new legs.
Is it that she lost her legs? I just knew she was injured.
It's some sort of injury. And so again, another thing.
Is it an injury or an illness, like a?
Well, that's why. Spoiler for Bob. It was in episode 3. Toji, beats the crap out of Shinji because he blames him for the injury his little sister sustained.
Oh, did she get hurt in one of the attacks?
In that,
like that attack.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we didn't get a lot of this during our selection here, but yeah, there is a lot of time where like Shinji, Toji, and what's the other one's name? The military otaku? Kaisuke. They end up being like the buddy trio. They are like the school chum, so we have like a lot of them hanging out, them talking, especially when Kaisuke Kensuke. As soon as Penn State realizes that that Shinji is the Ava pilot, he's just like, "Oh, you get to pilot a mech? That's so cool!" And Shinji's like, "Bro, you do not even." But all that stuff sort of brings them together. At one point, we see him like, we learn that Kinsuke has maybe some not having a real family issues, but listen, everybody's got their issues. We don't have time to cover everybody's issues in this show.
Suffice it to say, everyone in the show has some kind of psychological trauma to some extent.
Yep. It's thematic.
And not the dad. Anyway.
Oh, no, he do.
As if. So we get to the school, and literally everyone but Shinji is talking about how sad it is for Toji. And like Nick mentioned, this is my first real interaction with Toji, so my emotional connection to him is very limited.
Yeah.
He's 100% the Joey Wheeler of the group. Like there is no denying that 1-to-1 ratio.
Well, he even doesn't talk a whole lot this episode. Like Asuka's acting all surprised that Shinji doesn't know who it is, but doesn't tell him who it is. The kids make jokes about how Toji likes to eat a bunch of food. And I don't understand why they just don't tell Shinji.
I don't understand how Shinji is this dense.
To be fair, hey Toji, why do you seem off?
Tell Toji is
you know
gone today, the day of our new Ava
Yeah.
testing. What could possibly be on the menu for this? I couldn't imagine. I wonder who the new pilot is.
I mean, they absolutely have that moment later on the roof where it's just like, oh man, what if it's Toji? There's no way it could be Toji.
Yeah, it's like,
Record scratch.
really?
Gosh.
Hand up. Who's here ready to be proven wrong?
None
Come on, boys, put your hands up.
of them. That's the problem.
just-
Who opened an ear to what the teacher was saying in the background as we were watching Shinji watch Toji out in the thing?
Impact again.
Every time they're in school, they're here. We didn't see it because I think this was a episode 3 thing, but whenever you're in school, you're learning about the second impact.
Always.
maybe
So
it's that specific class. It's their second impact class. It's after Spanish and right before physics.
it might be. First impact is, the first period. Second impact is fifth period.
Second half of the day. First period of the second half of the day.
Hey Bob, at this point, can you tell us anything about what the second impact is?
It came after the first impact.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers for the next show we watched. There's concern over a third impact.
Oh yeah, nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. No, I can't say that. That's spoilers.
Shut up. Shut up.
It's
Shut
not
up.
that nobody wants
Shut up.
it.
Shut up. We can still salvage this. Shut up.
So, okay. Although, there's implications in the next episode, which, if you remember, we can loop around to this conversation.
Sure.
Because it kind of leads to a couple questions for me.
Oh,
Sure.
I love when there are questions.
So, that evening, everyone's just kind of chilling. I don't think Miss Hato's home. She had to do some sort of late work, probably surrounding Ava 3,
Yeah, she's still at the site.
Yeah, I think Kaji's babysitting.
which they kind of make a little bit of a joke about that because he gives Shinji a little bit of grief. Shinji's upset. Asuka's upset, even though that's kind of her state of being anymore.
Yeah.
And Kaji's like, hey, everyone, let's go to bed because early to bed, early to rise.
I love this moment right before Kaji walks in because this is where we have Asuka and Shinji talking about the new pilot, and even she's like, you don't know who it is? But then she makes the active decision to be like, yeah, no, I don't know either. And it's the one time we see Asuka considering protecting the emotions of others, and it's Shinji at that. That is such a wild, that's how bad they're trying to tell us it is.
This is probably my biggest problem with this episode, regarding the cast as a whole. Let me put a qualifier on there because there's a whole nother problem that we'll get to.
Okay.
And it's the obvious one. Everyone in here's kind of a piece of shit for not just telling him.
Mm-hmm.
That's don't get me wrong. Shinji's a piece of shit for being as dense as he is and not trying to, get a clue. But everyone here is such a piece of shit for not telling him anything. I don't even know how this emotionally affects him. I'll be honest, because I've been racking my brain. At no point do I show him really, or do I remember him in the series saying y'all don't want none of this shit, Ricky Bobby. He just said, you don't really understand what it's like, and he never really seemed terribly protective of Kensuke and Toji, beyond the one time he literally saved them directly. So I don't get this sense of, we gotta protect Shinji. Why? So maybe he can talk someone out of doing something stupid? The devil, you say?
To me, it definitely read I think so many, I think this is, especially Misato at the start, right? Because
Sure, Misato I get.
she knows, so clearly how Shinji has never really known family or, friendship. He's always been alone. So I think there is this sense that, oh, are they, super great friends? No. But, the three of them are real friends, and everybody, knows that friendship for Shinji is such a rare thing that they don't want to everyone's trying to protect him and just be like, no, yeah, everything's fine. And like, is that the smart move to make? No, but
So
in the idea of just like, hey, we don't want to tell you this upsetting thing about your bestest friend who only by manner of you've never had real friends before.
now I've never been a member of active service of any kind, and God willing, I never will be. Especially at my age. But I'm fairly certain if you have a new member of the team, you're informed of who's joining the team. Like there's a meeting, like a briefing about this, like your daily briefings.
Well, Masato was supposed to tell him.
Okay, but it seems like this still would have come up at any other point from someone else as well. Like this would have been brought up.
Oh,
Like there's so many potential avenues this should have come through to him, and I feel like even in their universe and the world they've built up, like that feels like a huge kind of oversight. Like I get it for narrative purposes. This happened for that reason, but it's just like it feels very contrived and stands out to me. And like that's like I said, for me that's a problem in this and makes everyone involved a piece of shit.
Is it contrived? Yes, but I do feel like we've seen the way that Gendo treats the kids, and like since he is the leader of the project, that's just something about how the project treats. Like Misato really is an outsider for considering them as people and not just tools what make the robots work.
Even Ritsuko was surprised she hadn't told her. I'm like, okay, then why didn't you say anything? You interact with this boy too. Talk to him.
Well, it's this really weird thing. Like they're trying to let these kids be like, hey, when you don't have an angel to fight, yeah, just go to school and do a thing. Like I don't think they are like in the base every day attending briefings, right? Like I want to say the only time we've really seen them in debriefings even is when they're getting yelled at because they lost the fight, you know?
And I guess and I would say as often as there have been like, well, we're aware of this and this is coming up in just their passing dialogue, I feel like there would have been like a meeting specifically to discuss this. Now, yes, Gendo,
Probably once after they tested the robot to see if it even works.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like they are not bringing somebody new onto the team. They are running a test to see if they are about to have a new team member, you know? Because like we didn't, you know, Asuka had been the second child and like a working Ava pilot for who knows how long enough to become extremely competent at it for a long time, but we never really even knew of her existence till she came to Japan. Now, is that the same kind of thing where it's like, oh, this is sort of just like the nature of sometimes writing your story plane while you're in the middle of flying it? Yeah, it could be that. But like
sure.
In that sense, there is some sort of well, not precipice, not presupposition.
Precedent.
Thank you. There is sort of a precedent for being like, oh yeah, no, like this project, this organization is so secretive even from its own members, like everything is on a need to know basis, and especially for these kids who they treat like tools rather than people.
Yeah, I was gonna say those kids, they don't tell them shit.
Okay, I'll concede to that. Really, what it boils down to, there's a trope I hate. There's a few, but this is one of them, and it's the, hey, no, come over here. You won't believe what I'm looking at. What is it? You've got to come here to see it. This falls under kind of that category for me of like, hey, there's this thing. Okay, you gonna tell me about it? Not the hell at all.
Yep, just say the thing.
And I hate that. And like, so like again, I accept this is a me thing. I still think everyone in universe is a piece of shit, regardless of it, for not telling him, regardless of their reasons.
I want to say that's why I walked out on Death at a Funeral, because that was a movie where the primary cause of conflict was just people not saying a thing that they could kind of just say in order to end the situation, not saying it for 2 hours. And I'm just like, nope, I cannot stand that. Like, I'm usually on the same page as you, but I think the idea of like, oh, like there is this read that everybody's doing this out of like sympathy for Shinji, and it's like, okay, they have this is the one time where there's like a cause beyond like plot contrivances to not tell him if they are trying to protect him. And is it a strong reason? No, but it's not no reason, and that's better than most times I think this plot piece comes up.
I still think it's too weak to be justifiable, but like I said, I get it. Narratively, I understand why.
Sure.
Doesn't mean I like it.
That's totally fair.
Yeah. Just had to get that out because that's probably besides something later, that's the most frustrating thing about this for me.
Yeah.
I feel like Kaji tries to imply to Shinji that maybe the pilot is a friend of his with the conversation they have later at night, which I didn't realize they were sharing a room.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's how
fine,
it is in
whatever.
small Japanese houses. When you take the futons out, everyone just kind of sleeps in the same room.
You're not wrong, in my opinion. It's like, again, Kaji, for all the rules he breaks, like, you maybe just actually say the thing, Kaji, come on.
Hope he doesn't. He just dances around the whole issue.
Kaji's job is kind of to not say things that he knows.
It's not untrue at all.
Don't worry about it.
So the next day, or implied next day, we switch over to the testing site to see Eva Unit 3 really not kind of take off the way they wanted to, because it ends up that it turns into a crazy goo monster because lo and behold, they put the armor on an angel.
The spicy cloud at the beginning was an angel infection.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yes. Because there was a tiny bit
confused.
of
Really?
That's what that was. That's why they made a point of showing the little special static lines across the cover.
Dumb.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
It was like my third watch before I realized that's what they were saying in that episode. Like, yes, it was.
I thought that they had put armor on an angel, and that's what happened.
I got that on round one watching that. I was like, oh, we're doing the thing where the non-discernible, acting typically only on instinct and a singular drive creatures actually had a plan.
So this lightning can completely convert a creature.
It's like an infection. Like, I guess. Listen, I've tried to rational how this thing works out, and the best I can come through is there's another angel in here that kind of operates pseudo similarly to what I'm gonna describe here, but it exists in either like some kind of energy state where it just kind of exists or can maybe sub-intentionally move or pseudo-intentionally move, infect a thing via electrical transmission, and then just kind of wait for the moment to attack like a predator would.
Yeah, I mean, I also don't want to give too much away, but there is another episode where we will basically see an angel take the form of computer virus. So, an angel is whatever you need it to be.
I was dancing around that, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, that's like the closest I can come to understanding it. There is no rationale for that, though, and I would argue there's still no rationale for the computer virus one, but if they can do one, they can sure as hell do the other, I guess. So, hand wavium. But that's what happened. It's like, we turned it on. Guess what, fuckers? I'm here now.
So experiment 221 takes over the Ava, and the people are like, nope, and they try to get rid of it by just blowing everything up. I don't know if the angel controlling the Ava blew everything up, or if it was Nerve's decision. Either way,
they say later it was Nerve. It was like their fail-safe device that failed.
Was just fire an N2 mine. All right.
Which is sad. All those people.
Uh-huh. Well, except for the named characters.
Yeah, except for everyone who had a name, which I gotta say too, big failing at this point, even on Nerve's parts. Like, y'all know the N2s don't do anything really.
Mm-hmm.
Why bother? Y'all really like maps, huh?
So they're like, let's assemble the team. I don't know how they get, Asuka and Shinji and Rei to their mechs so quickly.
Time has passed.
To be fair,
the newly dubbed 13th Angel, rap name aka the 13 Angel, he has to walk from the other launch site to Nerf headquarters. So, they got all that walking time to get set up.
If
It
he's
hasn't.
electricity, zap or whatever.
Well, it has a body now. It hasn't figured out the running OS yet.
Or
The
big
actual
jump.
OS for running.
Or, somehow co-opting the planes that flew this Ava here in the first place.
I
Yeah.
will say, too, to this point, we are experiencing something as an audience that is new regarding angels beyond infecting the Ava itself. And that's the fact that a human is having some kind of direct contact with this.
Oh, we don't know that 100% for sure.
True, but there's a non-zero possibility, and they kind of bring that up.
There's a person in the robot. If the robot's infected, something is happening to the
the
pilot.
person could be protected in their little bubble.
Yeah,
Well,
they
there's a point that proves maybe different of that in this episode.
Well, but part of what they show is they do fire the pilot capsule and try to eject it, but it gets caught halfway. So
It's in a weird goo web.
yeah, the Ava gets gooey. I didn't like that part, but I get it. They love to make things gooey in the show, especially towards the end.
I have a read on that says that was intentional, and that's just almost like it knows it's holding a hostage, or maybe is trying to make some kind of contact. But that's my read.
That could be.
I'm trying to figure out if this is the point where Shinji finds out it's Toji, or if it's afterwards.
It's at the end.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think it's after. Okay, we'll get to that point. I was trying to remember.
Shinji is definitely putting
It's
together
a whole thing.
Yeah, Shinji has put together that's not an angel, that's an Ava, which means there's somebody
a pilot
in it.
Inside. We must make sure that they stay alive.
Kudos to this kid trying to save life.
Yeah.
Most teenagers probably don't care, especially that kind of situation. It's big monster, kill it.
So obviously they're calling it Angel 13. And Asuka likes to fight things, so she goes in first. Gets beat up really bad. Not really bad, but enough to get her, out of the field.
Out of the field just in time when she was about ready to tell Shinji it was Toji
Mhm.
the whole time. Yeah, it was very Deus Ex Angel. Coming in saying, "Oh no, you shut the hell up. Your punishment is off screen. You're just KO'd." I guess we don't see what happened to Unit 2.
Should have continued to plant Ava as the twin angel.
Yeah, just make more Ava, plant, water, walk on.
And then I don't recall if it's Daddy who tells Rey she needs to attack, or if it's her own decision.
It's
Pretty sure it was Daddy was directed. Someone directed her to do it, and she is a soldier, a good soldier.
Oh, to your
she
point,
goes
they make it a point to say Gendo's running this op. Have fun, kids.
Directly. Which I guess they make that point because Katsuragi is out of commission because she is recovering from being nuked, I guess.
Yeah, she's currently KO'd as well from self-nuke.
Uh-huh.
So Rey takes on the Angel / Ava and gets her arm ripped off.
Well, to not just ripped off, but this is where I lead into the point of something may actually have happened to Toji, because it starts to drip on the Ava, specifically on its arm, and then does some kind of infection. There is something happening there. And because of the way that there's some kind of connection between the machine and the pilot, or the Ava and the pilot, a machine is a misnomer.
Mm-hmm.
We see Rey's arm start to do things it shouldn't. So there's some kind of connection there. So this is where I tie back. Something has happened to Toji.
Mm.
Oh no, and that's right. And they have to eject the arm. It's not that the robot gets torn off.
And she still feels that.
Yeah.
Daddy's like, I don't care about Rey, which is obvious from episode 1. eject the arm, and you can see on Ray that is not a fun feeling for her at all.
No.
So here's a sub problem I have with this. Why didn't it try and infect Unit 3 or Unit 2? Excuse me.
She's far too quick and agile.
I mean, to be fair, she's
Yeah.
too annoying to infect, is my honest opinion. But it's just one of those like, hey, wait a minute.
Well, so this is actually part of why my read on the pilot plug is that there's not a connection there, because the reason why Ray feels the arm getting severed is because she is still fully logged into the system. There's still like all the like she is still wired in, she is still connected. Whenever we do see that, because that's the whole thing. It's not just via the controls. It is the mental link between Pilot and Ava that lets them control the big body as an extension of their own body. This is even in like the very first fight when Ava 1 is getting blasted in the head with the palm beam, we see everybody screaming like, Shinji, don't worry, it's not really your eye that's getting hurt, it just feels like it.
Yeah.
Hold on. But so the idea that when we see that the plug in Unit 3 does try to eject but is physically stopped, that says to me that the ejecting process got to the point of fully removing the plug, meaning that all of the sort of like pilot body connections would have been disconnected at that point.
Yeah. I was gonna say, haven't we seen that before? Like it shuts off, everything goes black, and then it shoots them out.
Yes, I think we have seen that.
We kind of see something of that later here. So I mean, I'm willing to concede to that. I guess my mind also ran on the track of it's infecting the totality of Ava. Well, that's a lot of totally not embryonic fluid that pilot's just soaking in right now, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, it probably like did some damage before he ejected for sure.
Oh, I was on mute there. And so my mind just completely ran with like, okay, what happened inside? What happened inside the pod? Oh God, poor Toji.
That's what we'll never know.
We won't, and
inside the pod.
That does make it actually kind of more horrific in my mind. It's like we don't know what he actually went through.
Yeah,
that's entirely true. So we have Unit 0 now disarmed, and Unit 2 now disabled, which just leaves our good friend Unit 1 with Shinji. And Shinji's like, no, I don't want to destroy this because there's a person inside that Ava. And, Daddy was like, I understand, my son. We can figure this out. And that was the end of the episode.
Uh-huh.
We can totally figure this. Get the hell out of my way, Daddy's stepping in.
Alternate universe. Gendo. Is it Gendo?
It's Gendo. Hey, here's the thing. It's Gendo.
Oh, it's Daddy. Daddy's like, activate this thing we've always had, but now we're just referencing. Maybe it's been used before. I don't know.
They actually reference its development in other episodes leading into this, and that this, and especially the episode prior to this, that it's not fully
this episode,
developed to where they want it to be.
This episode said there's still glitches, but he says activate the dummy plug anyway.
You big dummy
plug.
Did you see who the dummy was?
Just straight up called Shinji a dummy.
No, it's the Jeff Dunham operation.
This is what happens when you let AI run everything.
What I find interesting is this is clearly an opportunity where Gendo could have done everything anyway.
He could have.
But has chosen not to. But now he is, because he is tired of Shinji not killing this Ava. So he activates the dummy switch. The Ava kind of...
So there is an argument to be made that this isn't... Activating the dummy plug onto itself is appropriate. You have a pilot in a situation, you need them to act. They are refusing to act or incapable. You need to stop a threat.
Are they letting the Ava just be what's inside the Ava?
So
No.
basically, the dummy plug project is they are essentially trying to create like a pilot core autopilot, essentially. So I believe the end goal is they want to try to make Ava's autonomous.
Mhm.
So basically the dummy plug is just like, hey, we have invented this core that will do the job of the pilot, so we don't need actual pilots in there.
And the dummy core is based on the brain patterns of a specific individual, and they show you who it is. Specifically in this instance.
They
Is it
do?
Kendo?
Yeah,
I'm so confused. I didn't
it's
realize
the
that.
profile for Rei Ayanami pops up.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
so yes.
I never noticed that till this rewatch, and I actually stopped and rewatched it. I'm like, did I just imagine that?
It makes
Because I
sense to me.
assumed that.
Even
I
just
agree.
like having her be the prototype pilot, I'm sure they took all sorts of like just scans and
Yeah.
stuff.
And that does make sense. I'm not arguing that by any
Yeah,
means.
yeah.
I never noticed that little flash before, because again, blink and you miss it. But yeah, so essentially,
Maybe
Rei
she's the
is
good one who follows orders and does what she's supposed to do.
She's
which is-
Gendo's favorite.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what this Ava did. This Ava relentlessly slaughters. I say slaughters because they're very graphic to Ava 3.
This
See
this
pieces pulled
mauling.
out, things torn apart. I swear it looks like it's eating it at some point.
Yeah, it's very animalistic.
Rei Hungi.
And Shinji is just stuck in there going, no, stop, no.
Watching it from
And-
a first-person view.
Yep. And just imagine having probably your brain still connected to this Ava as it goes through this.
They shut down all connection to the pilot.
Yeah, so that
Okay.
that brain sync that we were just talking about, it switches it from Shinji to the dummy plug. So he's actually
Gotcha.
not connected to it anymore.
Thank goodness for small miracles.
Yeah, can you imagine feeling the sensation of eating another thing like a just ravenous wild animal?
You haven't been to barbecues with me.
No, I somehow managed civility most of my life,
Oh,
despite all
you're missing
accounts.
out.
Huh?
Don't you ever want to go ape shit on some burgers?
I mean,
Ribs
yeah,
are
but
the
that's more
ideal.
like inhaling
Yeah.
them. I don't know what it's like to actually eat just another animal alive, organs intact.
Ugh.
Not
That-
for very long.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, and to be fair, this is like eating a lobster or a crab, because this thing has an exterior shell and it rips it off.
You gotta crack it
That's an
open.
image I didn't need.
Oh god.
Just needed some butter.
Ava Unit 1 pulls out its claw cracker and goes,
I
No.
mean, that's what the fingies is for.
I mean, yeah, this one was from Boston, so he cracked it open and made a lobster roll, I guess.
Mm.
so, Ava 3 is now destroyed. Blood being
Digesting.
splattered all across towers and everything. And Shinji's a little upset, just a twinge.
Also, the operations crew watching this were visibly upset.
Kendo wasn't too upset.
So the operations crew, I didn't say Captain Asshole.
Oh, he was pleased as punch. It was working exactly as intended. 'Cause
All according to Kate.
He's a yep.
So we have our good news, bad news, good news, bad news scenario. Good news, Ava 3 is down. Bad news is Shinji's really upset. He's pretty sure that the pilot died. Good news, the pilot's still alive.
Well, because we get the scene of specifically Ava Unit 1 with the pilot plug in its hand, and it's just like,
Uh,
dude,
go
you won.
crush.
And then he crushes it like a pencil. Like, you did not have to do that, bro. My
Yeah.
guy.
And also between this we also get the good news, bad news, in the sense of Misato alive. Bad news, Misato. You gotta tell Shinji now.
Mm-hmm.
Because Shinji uses his eagle eyes to see inside the little stick that is their escape pod. And would you know it? It's Toji. And Shinji has his own little freak out.
You gonna be okay there, buddy? You gonna be fine?
No,
He will not be okay.
Come get up. You just need to go
at
sleep it
all.
off.
So
Take a lap.
this is also one of those differences between the old dub and the new dub, because in the original dub, like, Shinji's scream like lasts so long, the music begins playing over him still screaming, and it's still
trying.
that, yeah, and it's still, Fly Me to the Moon, and you're just like, oh yeah, this happy song. The screaming is still echoing. The screaming is, I love it's like they're pushing the existential horror that Shinji is having by breaking the sort of like meta structure of the show.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was really good then, and it's still good now for that effect. Yeah.
But that's the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like, circling back, this obviously this is where I was saying I have a problem with this episode. I have a problem because any justification Gendo had for trying to end the situation stopped the minute it was like, okay, it's over, sir, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Enemy has been defeated. It is down. My God, that kid had a family.
Here comes Unit 01 with the folding chair. And then some.
God. That's Gendo's music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just like, all jokes aside, though, it's like, okay, we have now, if there was ever any doubt, both in what we've watched here for the podcast and in watching the show as a whole separately, if there was ever any doubt that Gendo might not just be a total bastard, there is something redeeming about him that has now fully and completely gone out the window, jumped from the highest story building, and much like the blood against all the buildings, splattered on the pavement.
Yeah. He is interested in the lengths of violence and brutality that he can make these machines go to.
Mm-hmm. To him, well, this happened to be an accidental successful test of an incomplete dummy plug. Can't wait to see what the completed one does.
Mm-hmm. You're saying this is a good outcome. Okay, all right.
It was successful. We have data.
Mm-hmm.
What more could we have hoped for under these situations?
I mean, I do love to get data, so I can vibe with him there, but
I would not admit to that under this circumstance, my friend. But yeah, it's so Gendo's a right bastard on a good day. Other days he's just an outright monster.
That's which day it is. Like, so you're telling me between episode 1 and this point, there's no Gendo backstory?
What episode did I suggest that we cut from this? Was that after this one? I think it is. Yeah, it has to be after this one.
I thought it was the one just before 21. This one.
So we get kind of a backstory in episode 21.
About, like, Nerve in general, kind of.
Nerve, but there is Gendo information in it.
Yeah.
It gives you literally, like, a biographical read on, like, like, a very cold, general facts, not, like, in depth of his personality, but by way of that, you get in a feel for who Gendo may have always been.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, to answer your question, not to this point.
Okay. So he really just is a jerk.
Yep.
When he's feeling generous, yes.
That's really all I got for this episode. It's kind of like Chuck said, is a straightforward episode-ish.
It's a straightforward episode and kind of leaning into it. It is, I suppose, one of the more like contrived episodes because it is all about building to that, existential shock for Shinji in the end. And it kind of forces its way into doing that. very tropily, I guess you could say.
Episode where someone wrote down, "The other shoe has dropped."
Yeah. But you want to talk about how many shoes we have to drop. That's where we should begin talking about episode 22, Staying Human, or Don't Be.
Or if you reverse it, don't be staying human.
Uh-huh.
So this is the episode that makes you ask, is a character redeemable? Because up until this point, I can tell you, Asuka is not someone who I really cared for. She is
Mhm.
like, turn her off. And it opens not redeeming her at all. Her and Koji are talking about coming to Japan. This is way before when they're in Denmark? Germany. My goodness. I was trying to make her a Dane. Nope. Sorry, ma'am. And Koji is like, hey, everything's going to be fine. He's like, I don't care. I only care about you, and tries to seduce an old man.
Yeah.
And she is very much not at that age. And in its own way, I appreciate Koji just like shoots that down.
Mm-hmm.
I got so worried. It's like, nope.
Koji is many things, not a pedophile.
He has other people to sort of sexually molest. Read the elevator scene.
I bet if he had a cell phone at any point, we could grab that and there'd just be a dozen text messages from Misato. You up?
If Kaji uses anything but burner phones, I'd be surprised. This man still uses a flip phone just in case. Something he can throw out the car window at a given moment's notice.
You're not wrong, but he still manages to make sure Misato gets the number, and Misato just has like a dozen, over 100 probably registered numbers for Koji.
Uh-huh. She just keeps getting text messages like, new phone, guess who?
New phone, guess who dis?
Oh my goodness. We see, and through that we see a further flashback of Asuka as a child holding a very ugly looking baby doll.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to talk to her mom. And her mom's like, you can join me if you want to.
You can leave your friends behind.
I was just thinking that.
It is weird. This is in general a weird episode, but this is Asuka's kind of episode.
Now we get into like the psychology minor degree of
I was
the
just going to
series.
say, welcome to Psychology 101.
Yep.
I have a degree in this.
I only took one semester. It was high school psychology, so take that with it as you will.
Count.
Honestly, that's all the depth you really need to
Yeah.
understand a lot of what goes on in this show.
Yes.
Because, as I said in the intro, Ano had dealt with depression, and then his friend gave him a book about psychology, and then that book, I'm sure, was cited a lot, creating a lot of this. So
Uh-huh.
it's
you ever
a
just read a
beginner's
book?
introduction.
You ever read a book, like a self-help book, and decide to make a whole anime series about it?
So we
Yes.
switch to the nerve center, and they talk about Asuka in her Ava, and her connection level seems to be dropping.
Sync ratio.
The what? Thinking?
Sync ratio. SYNCH. Sync.
Oh, SINK. You wash your dishes.
No,
Uh-huh.
not the kitchen.
Nope.
Damn
Yep.
it! I knew
You got it. Got it in one.
No, the dummy plug is not a sink.
The dummy
The plug in
plug
the
is
sink.
yeah. That's how you make it fill up
Dummy
with water.
plug is moderately looking like a vibrator.
So, through the conversations, we find out there are more Avas being built throughout the world, which I guess since there was a German one and a few American ones, I just assumed that everyone was already making them. But the numbers they put out, like 8 and 9 or something like that.
Yeah, they say
I mean,
mass
honestly,
production.
these things must take so many resources to build. They're
Depends
humongous.
Depends on
They're-
the episode and the size that they need. Sometimes they're tall as buildings, sometimes they
Yeah.
aren't.
They're humongous, but they're also biomechanical, so like I'm guessing parts are also grown.
They just have to go to Monster Island, grab a couple King Kongs. They're good to go.
Ah.
Like I started to say, Bob, they drop the two words that have been slowly been getting batted around this whole series to this point. They have entered mass production.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know nothing bad comes from blatant, flagrant mass production of anything that could just tear another living being covered in armor apart and then eat it. Like apparently barbecue.
Uh-huh.
We also briefly mentioned that Asuka is on her period, which Ritsuku is like, that would have absolutely nothing to do with the tea in China when it comes to an Ava.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I bring this up is it's relevant to later points.
We have
And personally, as someone who has had periods, it absolutely would. So shut the fuck up.
I appreciate Ritsuko just saying like kind of like the mood of it was like you're blaming it on what today? Like, are you sure Kaji's not here? Kaji, are you playing dress up?
So
I do want to say we do have a moment of I guess we're looking at I think it's Unit 01 and Misato's just standing in front of it while it's getting rebuilt after whatever happened in the last couple of episodes. And she's just looking at it and saying some real normal stuff. You know, Ava, born of Adam, I hate you, Avas. Just like, she just says some really concerning stuff.
actually, that does circle around to the other point of, he said, are we going to create another Impact?
Yes.
Don't worry about it.
And so this, I don't know anything.
Bob, for what it's worth, the episode I wanted to show you that we didn't do, and I'm genuinely not heard about it. I don't want that to come across. I would have solved that for you.
It's fine. It's fine.
I wanted to so badly.
Oh, but the questions is what gets their hooks in you, not the answers.
Listen. I can be two things.
That's true.
At the same time.
The duality of man and such.
The duality of Mav.
Yeah, okay, alright, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Later on, we see the gang, as it were, having dinner, and Asuka is just a little bit of a grouchy cuss. Starts randomly yelling at Sato. A little bit at Shinji.
And it is the uncomfortablest dinner, like silent dinner too.
And then I think this is where she goes to take a bath, and just starts laying it on herself.
She did get a phone call from her mater.
Oh, that's right.
Her totally mater.
She speaks in German.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, that's where the Langley comes from.
And I'm sure for our German-speaking viewers that it's a legitimate conversation, because from what I could pick up, I know maybe 3 words in German, and they all were there. Shinji and Asuka kind of have a short conversation about it, and she's like, well, no, it was just a base conversation, very boring. No, I don't really care about my mom.
It's just for show.
As somebody who still can't get the grasp of small talk and social contract stuff. Sure, whatever you say, Asuka.
Yeah, just like, wow. Asuka, you're a well-rounded human being, aren't you?
She's trying so hard not to lose it in these scenes.
Oh man, trying is the operative word.
Uh-huh.
It fails every time.
She's being a bigger jerk than ever, but to the level of just like, this is a big jerk even for you. You're going through it right now, aren't you? Like, this is where it's just like you can tell that her being a jerk is absolutely like a psychological self-defense mechanism at this point. And I think that reads in a way where it's just like, this is when I have like the most sympathy for Asuka, where it's just like, oh, you're going through it. Oh, you gotta stop being a jerk, but I get why. I'll help you here.
I will say too. I still think she's a bitch, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where it went from just like, oh, God, you're just a vicious little bitch, aren't you? To, oh, you're a tragic bitch, aren't you? And it's
that's the
like,
thing.
I get it.
Especially with trauma, explanations are not excuses.
Right.
That's exactly the words I was gonna say. Yes, thank you.
Like, so we get a better understanding of why she is how she is. That doesn't mean she's not still responsible for her actions and inactions.
Mm-hmm. And it's honestly, beforehand, it was like all of her behavior really could have been the meme. Could it be I don't understand what's hip anymore? No, it's the children that are wrong. It's like, okay, cool, you're a meme. Now it's, oh, do you have insurance in this world? You may check out mental health. It's a thing.
I don't think Nerve offers mental health benefits.
I was just gonna say, what kind
Nerve?
of benefits does Nerve have?
Why do you think I said, do you have insurance?
Uh-huh.
It wasn't like, you have insurance, do this. It's like, do they even bother covering you? Or is it all just like kind of like a military hospital where they have to fix you like they would a Jeep?
Nerve only offers mental health deficits. That's all they offer.
That was too real.
Uh-huh. I didn't say it was good, just true.
You'll have to excuse me for the rest of the episode. I don't think I can contain myself. I'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
So next day, go back to the nerve center, and Asuka is still borderline when it comes to being able to operate Eva 2.
Oh, allow me to interject too. This is something that's not out of the blue. I won't go into full detail, but this has been a thing coming to this point.
And in its own way, in a real way, it's nice to see that there's operational levels. It's not, you can do it or you can't do it. It's, they have daily checks.
Yeah.
Ritsuko and Masato kind of having the conversation, which they've apparently just always have, of you need to not care as much about the kids. What do you mean? I don't care about the kids. Boo-hoo-hoo, the poor kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the way their organization is set up, yeah, she's not supposed to, as probably part of her job description. The fact she does means she's probably in violation of contract.
And Asuka is just on a mission right now. First, she goes to the bathroom and yells at herself because she's on her period. And she gets on an elevator and yells at Rei for being such a good soldier.
Oh, we got to talk about this scene in a minute.
Yeah.
And she even yells at Ava too, trying to be like, hey, throw me a bone.
She is just rocking she is jumping straight ahead to bargaining with Ava 02.
Mm-hmm.
But you said you wanted to talk about Rei and Asuka in the elevator. This actually, and I think I'm going to be an outlier here, makes me not like Rei.
Go on.
Rei, and this is for someone who has only watched 5 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
does not have any character development. She's just constantly, I am poor, sad person who does what they are told.
Mm-hmm.
You get introduced to her when she's all beat up. She does have pain receptors. She does talk very occasionally.
She is very similar to a human.
Oh my goodness, are you guys strongly implying something?
No.
No, save me.
No, she's a human.
Oh, thank you. Oh, good.
She breathes and eats.
Listen here, you turds. Anyway,
I mean, one thing you got to say for Rei is that she's always around somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to a square.
Mm-hmm. She's kind of present.
But yes, you're right. She hasn't gotten much like character development or anything.
She doesn't have any development. I think this is her attempting to be helpful with Asuka, and she does not do compassion. She just does facts.
Yeah, she's very relatable for autistic people.
Yeah, actually. So, what is it? I don't remember if it's episode 3 or 4, somewhere very early, we do have a very like awkward scene between Rei and Shinji that is absolutely playing up that her gimmick is she does not have emotions like a human, and she is very just like, oh, you seem empty. That that is not necessarily bad character writing. It is on purpose. And the cool part is like there is a lot more for what she lacks in personality. She more than makes up for it in backstory and sort of like the role she plays in the story as a whole. But yeah, there's a decent argument that she is more MacGuffin than character. But even in what we saw in the last episode, there is a moment where Rei is hanging out with Toji and being like, "Oh, so you're going to be the new pilot, huh? All right, that's cool, I guess." Like she's trying to have a human connection, but then even he calls her out like
by accident.
Yeah, well, because he calls her out, or somebody calls her out, just like, "Oh, you're worried about Shinji finding out that it's me, huh? All right, you care for that kid, yeah." So and that's kind of the thing. It's just like there's part of it is like, and again, like there is a lot of readings on being like overly autistic coded or something, but like yeah, she is somebody who isn't even in touch with her own humanity in a sense, and that's not completely unrelatable, but it does make for like a hard to resonate with character for sure.
She is very reminiscent to me of another very famous pale character, Mr. Data.
I was gonna say she's like Ruri from Nadesico. She's true. Like I don't know if Rei was sort of like the progenitor of this style of computer like girl, but definitely
I think she was like,
she is famous for being that.
I think she became like the pinnacle example. I feel like I'm aware, like tangent, like in the back of my mind somewhere. I feel like there are characters I've heard of that are like this that are older, but yeah, I would say like she was more like the definitive, kind of like Asuka is considered the definitive tsundere. Rei has been associated as the definitive version of this.
For me, Rei is say you get your first job and you get the manual that comes with the job that tells you all the rules.
Oh, she's that voice.
You read it and then you put it away because you want to make your own rules. But when push comes to shove, you pull out the rules.
Even if they're in a cast and bleeding in a hospital bed, you gotta pull out the manual and be like, all right.
She would have gotten in that damn machine and you know it.
She absolutely would have. She has no survival instincts.
She has no nothing.
She's got no nothing.
Oddly, at this point, this is where my Rei level is at its lowest.
For so many reasons, Bob, I personally agree with you about Rei. But at the same time,
you have a wider knowledge base.
Yeah, there is also, I would say, she is not like her skin as milk toast as it would appear, but she is definitely almost completely devoid of personality.
I'm sure she's deep and has many complexities that's pushed down thanks to military training.
No.
And daddy issues.
Oh, she does have dad. Does she have daddy issues or
no? All right.
Anyway,
next scene.
Okay, yes, next scene. We will move on because we spent way too much time on Rei, and I just.
I'm happy to spend time on Rei.
It is an interesting. It's a good conversation to have because again, like us knowing the whole story and seeing your perspective on her, it's like, oh yeah, I guess like if you only see, part of the story, she definitely comes across as like flat and
this
uncharacterized.
This is absolutely a case where like
could be a post episode conversation because I feel like Rei would be definitely a longer conversation.
I would love to have the follow-up episode where if you do go on to watch this, we just get your like second take on everything after you've seen the whole thing. But I don't know if that's going to happen, so let's...
we will see.
We'll find out.
I just want to say the reason I wanted to circle the scene was not necessarily because of the dialogue of it, but this is kind of like a directorial masterclass in building tension.
Oh my god, that elevator!
It's so awkward. It's so good.
It's
That's
so
why I want to start
quiet
like
for
this.
so long.
Any complaints anyone has about the show, I feel kind of start to drop off when you look at some directorial choices, and this one has to be by and far the perfect one, because this could have been and should have been in a visual medium more than just any other director would have said this. There's dialogue, we have to have character interaction. Instead, we get the perfect interaction of nothing.
It just makes me realize that they use the same elevator as the elevator in Grey's Anatomy, where everything seems to happen there. So, I'm pretty sure this.
Also, don't use a black light in that elevator. Don't worry about it. Looking at you, Adji.
Okay. So, Angel appears. And this one, they have really good sensors hitting Nerve. This one is in near orbit outer space.
Low orbit, yeah.
It's hanging out with the ISS. And it's not entering the atmosphere. It's just hanging out there. And Nerve's like, well, maybe it's got a super cannon. It's going to blow us away. We got to take it out.
It's not playing fair. It's doing the thing. It's not touching us.
For reference, low Earth orbit encompasses Earth-centered orbits with an altitude of 1,200 miles, about 2,000 kilometers. Or less.
Do we know how far off the Earth this was?
I'm just saying, that's pretty far.
Well, I think it qualified by its general look, but I could be wrong.
And they're going to send Rey out, but Asuka's like, no, I'm going out. And against the wills of everyone, goes out on her own. And she, I think it's just going to shoot it out of the sky because they said they need a sniper. And she pulls out her gun, and the Angel hits her with, top 40s track from
Beethoven.
1987.
If I remember correctly, it's Beethoven.
I got in my Netflix version, Hallelujah.
It's Hallelujah.
Okay.
Hallelujah, that one. And it's loud, and I can understand why Asuka starts crying because, boy, does that song get old.
Wait, hold on. Did Beethoven not do Hallelujah? I forgot.
I know it as like a church hymn.
I know it's a church hymn, but like someone had to put it together.
I think it's Amen Sevenfold. Oh, that would be Amen. Hey, listen here. I know, like.
I think you killed Nick.
You kind of heard that one from here.
Anyway, I'm gonna press on so I don't get beat up.
That man has family.
By God,
So
that's God's music.
So this super Hallelujah wave really upsets Asuka because it's somehow messing with her brain. We see at the nerve center that her graph turns like really weird and squiggly, like all the lines are intersecting.
Hallelujah beam that turns your brain graph into spaghetti. Just fire this beam directly into your brain.
Considering when this came out and what was going on at certain times in the United States, I'm willing to bet the ATF took all the wrong notes. If you get that, you get that.
She's screaming, get out of my head. And at the same time, no, don't pull me out. I'd rather die. Which kind of shows her mental state at this point.
Yeah, my note, even from in the elevator, is just, your pride will destroy you, Asuka.
So, when she gets hit with the beam, she shoots a couple times at the thing in orbit and completely misses. And then we get kind of a zoom in on Asuka, where she's once again this little child with this doll that talks to her in her mother's voice saying, sure, you can come with me.
This choo-choo knockoff looking ass plush that she's carrying.
It's like I understand certain things are copyrighted, but this is picture in your head doll. There it is.
This is like a Cabbage Patch Kid is a step up from this. Raggedy Ann has more detail than this.
That Second Impact took out a lot of Toys R Us's, even though they're closed. I got that. that her mom, apparently, along with bad things happening, we'll see, sewed her the potato bag together, put button eyes on it, and said, "Here you go."
It's discount daughter.
Pretty much. There's two different scenes. One I'll go into first, which is Asuka's brain state. Through this, we find out Asuka's got a lot of issues. I think it's almost let's see here. So bear with me because I am probably the least psychologically driven person. Almost an imposter syndrome because she has this repeat over and over of her talking to Koji, introducing herself, and then her getting angry. Loop that like 10 times. Her mom saying, "No, it's okay," or Asuka chasing after mom, "Can I come with you?" "Sure, you can come with me," because her mom is getting ready to commit suicide and inviting her daughter to come with her. So her dad saves her. And then eventually, I don't think we actually got a super resolution other than we switch over to her sending out Ray the sniper rifle. Because oh
No, they had Ray get something else.
Do they have her get that first? I thought they had her shoot with a sniper rifle.
She has the rifle.
She did do the rifle.
Because,
okay, I blanked that out entirely.
It hits a force field or whatever they call the field.
Right, yeah, that's right. The only direct shot. It's like, the AT field.
Yep, thank you. That's what they're called, the AT fields.
Do you know what AT stands for?
I don't think they've told him. Let him guess. Don't tell
in
him.
the intro.
It's in the intro.
Right. You're right, it is. Damn it.
Oh, crap. I don't remember then.
Then don't worry about it.
Oh, now I have to think about it.
You
got
can
two
go back
guesses.
and watch it.
We can come back to that within the question section.
Okay. So, bullet does not work. Hitting the awfully telepathic field. Close.
You are so close.
And so Gendo is like, go. Sorry. Every time I think about it, it makes me laugh.
Go on. Say it, Bob.
Go get the spear of Longinus.
Yeah.
And every time I hear it,
I hate that they pronounce it though.
Longinus.
No, it's the Longinus. It's like that sounds like something you shouldn't say on a show.
Yeah, that's one of those 7 words you can't say on TV.
In the new dub, it is Longinus. In the old dub, it is Longinus.
Really?
Which I'm not sure either of those are right.
I think either way, Ray is probably blushing as she grabs it. And the
not with that lack of emotion.
The spear is in what looks like an Ava.
Yeah, they send her into the basement that no one talks about.
Because it's where the second impact happened.
Nope. That's not correct.
Okay, so this is me using my guessing. So this is not where the second impact happened, but something bad happened.
This is Central Dogma.
Something's there.
And there's an Ava that is like Ava -1, I guess.
Is that an Ava, Bob?
I don't know. It looked like an Ava. They pull a spear
Could be
out
anything,
of its hand.
But tell me, Bob, would you describe the cutting image, as it were, that this entity it provides us? Is it recognizable in any way, shape, or form?
Not really. Just humanoid.
No. I mean, how it's maybe being held
presented.
Up. Yes.
You're gonna have to refresh me.
It was transported.
Like nailed to the cross.
Oh, that's true.
It's been crucified, literally.
And like literally, the point is that the Spear of Longinus is the like Christian artifact. Longinus was the soldier who stabbed Christ in the side in order to make sure that he was dead. So it is literally the Lance of Longinus. It's the Holy Spear. It is the spear that pierced Christ.
An artifact that Hitler went after because it make me win war.
Hey, have you ever seen the movie Constantine?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen an Indiana Jones movie
Yeah.
I mean, specifically in Constantine, the lance, the head of the spear is what they're using to bring
Oh yeah.
baby devil across
hmm
because it's got god blood on it.
Did
Gotta have that god blood.
Anyway,
did
So, Bob, no symbolism here whatsoever to be found.
but
to be fair, it's basically using the imagery and the
Yes.
item without any real attachment to the religiousness that it's attached to.
Yeah, that was my critique earlier at the beginning of this. He gets a lot of credit for all the symbolism that was really just really a thin veneer paint job.
Yeah, like it's literally just because it's like edgy in Japan to use Christian
Mhm.
imagery.
Yeah, they have an
Ray
interesting
don't
history with
care
Christian.
either. He just pulls, and I'm sorry, the Biden out.
Oh,
it
yeah,
is
well-
a Biden? Yes.
Ray doesn't care because she's Buddhist.
Hmm.
That's funnier than it should have been. Anyway, so Ray moves back to the city to throw the spear, and lines up her shot, throws it, and somehow the magical spear of either the long anus or the longinus,
It's still long enough.
good, pierces the angel in the sky. It goes boom, and the spear is just stuck in orbit out in the sky, where apparently we have Avas, but we don't have the ability to make spacecraft.
just the way that it ends on just like, oh, it's stuck around the moon. It's just there, huh? And then we just cut to it quietly rotating in orbit, just like, all right, that's where it lives now. All right, that's okay.
I just
That's
imagine
how
the
it'd be.
spear. I need a dub version of this, an abridged version, if you will, where the spear is just being shot. Like, fuck.
And it ends.
It's like an Hitchhiker's Guide. It thinks the same thing as the bowl of petunias. Just, oh no,
Yup.
not again.
With the improbability drive.
Yeah.
The I don't want to
The whale
spoil
that
like the
became
third
it,
book. Yeah.
So, some things of note, which I kind of skipped over, is we do see a Shinji shot because he's just sitting in Evil One, doing
So,
nothing.
They
He's reading a
say
good book.
they say that Unit 1 is being held in cryosleep because there was an incident, so it's on lockdown. Nobody's allowed to use it. That's what Gendo says.
It's in
Kay,
timeout.
Kay, don't worry about it.
Essentially, it's really. I feel bad for Shinji in this shot.
Well, so the Ava's in cryosleep, but they still put Shinji in it. So he's just
You
like,
can feel bad.
We don't want you to get out of practice.
And Asuka is alive.
Yeah, they say they put her into quarantine, but she's clearly not in any kind of quarantine. A whole pandemic has told me she is not being isolated in any way because Shinji gets real damn close.
There's a single line of caution tape wrapped
That
around
is
her
not
and the
quarantine.
Ava.
That is as quarantine as a Band-Aid is major surgery.
It's quarantine in the same way that, like, in old sitcoms, people would quarantine the room down the middle with, like, a white line of tape. It's just like, you stay on your side, and I'll stay on my side.
And it's not only that she's in quarantine, it's because she was in quarantine due to exposure to the angels, presumably psychic attack, possibly spiritual, I don't know. It was Hallelujah. And yet there's nothing there holding her in any kind of place other than she is sitting there because she is pouting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, y'all, words mean things.
That's essentially the end of the episode. Is Shinji and Asuka, and Asuka is still. She's not better. This fight did not make her better at all. You thought she would have worked through it? No. She has gotten a bigger grudge.
You ever take an L so hard that it made all other L's throughout your life and that are yet to come look, with minor exception of one, look almost inconsequential? That's where she's at.
Because she's so mad because she keeps getting saved by Shinji and Rei when, like, her definition of herself is the most badass one who doesn't need saving. This is another thing where, like, yes, she's a bitch. Yes, her like backstory is like overwrought to like an almost comical sense, but like the way that she is like breaking down and her sort of mental issues as she's going through is not necessarily unrealistic. Like it's there's definitely a sense of like, yes, this is kind of the way that people would really break. Maybe, you know, to different extents, but this is not an irrational path for a person to take, which I think is really impressive. That's like, again, this is why, you know, when I was, you know, too young to, there is like an age of appreciation for this movie that comes with when you reach an age of like, not just like empathy and sympathy, but even of like self-awareness and just like learning the kind of the patterns of people, especially in duress. Like that is when you start to get an awareness of that, that is when this show really becomes like, you see how much there is to appreciate in this show, I think.
Yeah, I had something and it just blew away. Tears in the rain.
Oh, time to die.
Yeah, she's... Oh, I remember what it was now. She's now reached the completion of her Vegeta arc.
She's gonna marry Bulma?
No, that was the beginning of the Bulma arc.
Oh.
That was the beginning of Vegeta's Bulma arc. This is the end of Vegeta's Vegeta arc.
She's gonna marry the one with blue hair. Uh-oh. Against all odds.
Well, Vegeta also hated the one that eventually had the blue hair too.
That's true.
Yeah, she stopped being the main character in her story now. She has realized her place in the universe, and that's, with that kind of ego, that's gotta be, and when I say that kind of ego, I mean like considering all the factors of Asuka, that's gotta be like world shattering for her.
Especially when that ego is so fragile because it's just a defense mechanism.
Yeah. That's exactly why I'm saying that. It's like, it's that ego glass cannon essentially, and it just lost the war.
Glass cannon ego is such a beautiful description of Asuka in this show. Hey, before we finish talking about this episode, we did skip over the part where Misato has like a noir detective internal monologue when she asks, "We can't have an Ava go down and get the lance. That might cause a third impact."
Oh, that's right.
Oh, would it not?
This circles around to my question because when she mentions it, she's like, "So did the last event not cause the second impact?"
Well, that's more of a questioning of, are the facts around what she knows and what we've all been told about second impact? And when I say what we've been told, I don't mean what's being taught in school. I mean what she has been told as part of NERV. Are those facts maybe not facts after all?
I wouldn't know. I don't know any facts. Not even what's at school. I failed.
I didn't realize Gendo had a spray-on orange tan.
Fake news.
But yeah, I have a lack of knowledge on the second impact or even the first impact because I think the show implies that there was a first impact.
Bob, would you believe you don't know it, but you know about First Impact? I'm not going to tell you what it is, but you know about First Impact.
It's like Deep Impact, another movie.
Oh,
kind of. You're on the right path, but not quite.
Okay, so second impact was Armageddon.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure, I mean,
conveniently,
is 3 the core?
But Bob, you're so close to being on the right track, but you're still missing it by several million years.
So what was your question?
No, it's just more concern about whether we find out that everything we know is wrong when it comes to the second impact.
Yes, because we know that what's being taught in the schools is different than what the like actual event was. But here we find out that what the people in charge are telling everyone with the clearance to know the truth is also apparently not the whole story or not the correct story.
Secrets
I
upon
feel like
secrets.
it has something to do with the spear and the fight that was there.
Bob, do you like
Well,
conspiracies?
sounds like there's one there.
I mean, here's even the best part, because like it's weird. This is going so deep. I went down a wiki rabbit hole about lore, so I just have to mention this. The fact that it's Misato who doesn't know the truth
Yeah.
about the occurrence at Second Impact is
Don't worry
the most ironic thing possible.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that while we were having this discussion. Like, if anyone should actually have a better idea of what the truth is, it should be her. Don't
Mhm.
worry about it, Bob. Just hold tight to that little penguin.
Just wait till you hear what the name of the Antarctic expedition was. I'm just saying, this is okay. Okay, hey, we're already pushing onto it, so I think it's probably time that we start going through some of our final thoughts. What are we? What? Let's open up the Pandora's box of questions. What?
I'll tell you.
Who
like I
has
did-
anything and everything?
I'll just get my stuff out of the way now. As I said in the first first part of this, the beginning of this, words.
Mhm.
Pre-episode 1. I think this is garbage here. No, it's a good show. It has good, albeit still limited world building. Removing all the unjustified credit it gets for being super symbolism and really super deep critiques of this and that. It's like, no, it's just a good show about kind of dealing with
That's the trick.
depression.
Don't listen to the fans. Never listen to the fans.
I know.
Never.
I know.
listen to the
And that's
fans.
what I'm saying. Like, getting all that out of the way, the truth is, this is a really good show. Deals with a lot of psychology, some existentialism, and a hell of a lot of depression. And
Multiple kinds of
considering-
depression.
yeah, and considering Bob, I would never, ever, ever be part of a conspiracy on this podcast to keep information from you.
What?
But there may be a conversation that prevents me from going any further on other aspects that I would like to. All I will say is, for this series, it handles it very well. Not necessarily in a complete manner, but very well. And so I got my crap out of the way, so we don't have to worry about me looking like I'm going to poo-poo on someone's parade. But Bob?
But for myself, with this show, and I actually had a conversation with someone about this, believe it or not.
Not us? How dare?
Actually,
Oh,
it was with one of my co-hosts here. It's that through watching this show, I had to know, because a certain episode made me actually care about a character.
It was me the whole time.
Actually, no. It was Nick.
It
Yep.
was?
Yeah, we talked about this prior to taping.
We did talk about this. I'm
Yes.
doing a bit.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I had to know what happened to Asuka. So I Googled her.
She had therapy. Deep, intensive therapy.
In a deep, intensive sleep.
Yeah, so how much did you look up about
Okay,
Asuka?
I still know absolutely nothing about anything. It was strictly focused on Asuka.
Okay.
So I know that she, by the end of the series, is in a deep coma.
Yeah.
And
By the
then
end of the
there's-
series, she's in a deep coma.
And then there's 3 movies. First
Well,
Mm,
is there more than 3?
yes.
There are movies. Period. Continue.
Okay. From what I researched, there's a movie where she comes back. She's pretty much the same character, but a little bit nicer.
Uh-huh.
By the end, everything is eh. And then in another movie, she's rewritten to be pretty much a completely different character, but the same character, but more friendly to Shinji. And then by the third movie or the final movie or whatever, she is like, in every single instance, she loses her connection to her Ava. She's just kind of there. Like, she's constantly the character who kind of gets shut down, but they learned that maybe being a horrible person the entire time is not standard for Asuka. So they kind of tone it down a little bit, even though she still is kind of that character. It's not to the level of she hates herself wanting to die.
I think it would have to be that, at least to some extent, because really, like, if you look at each character as like an encapsulation of a kind of depression or mental turmoil or whatever, Asuka's really is like the evaporation of ego, of self-identity, by like the one thing she's good at is like the thing she loses, and then it is a question of what's left of her, you know?
Okay, I agreed. I agree. We wouldn't talk about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I have. Hold on. I don't have any paper, so just pretend I got.
Uh-huh. Shuffle.
That's me. Getting my paper shuffled in order. I have a thesis on the capital E Ava media that are encompassed in more or less what Bob is describing, but maybe not 100% accurate on how much of a thing there is. And I am holding that for a time. But that being said, I will say part of what's being said here is in what my my absolute final thoughts, should that ever occur. And yet I also don't fully agree with it. But again, I can't go into fuller detail.
I understand. And for me, give the show credit that I care about a character.
Yeah.
Shinji, I feel bad for. Talk about some daddy issues. But he ends up, I wouldn't say being one note in the episodes we watched. He just doesn't have a lot of development other than the guy who has the biggest heart the entire series.
The weakest heart.
Debatable, but I don't disagree.
I mean, having a
heart.
big heart just means you have a bigger target to get broken. I guess
absolutely.
Is sort of my idea for it.
One could argue Masato also clearly cares.
Yes.
But she also has a mission, which is more apparent early on than later on, because she slowly develops feelings and caring for the kids. But at first it was, this is what I got to do. Ray, one note, white paper Ray, she exists. She is absolutely there. That being said, I had to stop myself because I had gotten through halfway through episode 3, realizing that wasn't one of the episodes to watch. This show flows well.
It does.
And it's only 26 episodes, I think, for this particular series.
Well, yes. Let's say yes.
For the series, yes.
For this
Yes,
particular
for the series.
Okay,
I completely understand that there is a whole extended universe.
Yeah. Which is very much just like a... It's not even for the sake of like the story needed it, but Ava was just such a phenomenon of the time. Like I didn't even think about talking about this pre-episode, but like we could get into talking about like the Ava branded trains, about Ava branded toothpaste. Like if you can think of like a household product, you can get an Ava branded version of it in Japan, because that is the cultural phenomenon that Ava was. So the idea that you would make the series and then make no more of it was just like unthinkable.
You ready for me to like possibly kill any audience we have?
Okay.
And it's not for the reasons you may think. I have regarding Ava as a property, not even as just a franchise of media entertainment, but as Ava as a merchandising franchise. Ava is Star Wars, but still, through any negative things that may be said about Ava, has still done it better than Star Wars has to date as an equivalent media property in its native country. Because for all of Ava being out there and merchandised to death, it doesn't have a ton of unnecessary, empty calorie drivel shows and additional supplementary material. Take that, Disney.
Huh.
Can't wait to get that Disney sponsorship.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
Nick, I don't know about you, but I am appreciating the show a lot more on the rewatch. Because, like, when I first saw it, I was in my late teens in college, which, like, you attach onto different aspects of it as you get older, I think, as with most shows. But, like, the teenage depression is definitely the strongest hook if you, like, because most people watch it when they're, like, high school, early college age, I think. So, like, that was definitely the draw, but I didn't really like it. Maybe because I was expecting more of, like, a robot show, and I was just like, what's with all these terrible, sad people? I hate this. But, like, watching it now, also having more of a psych background now, there's, like, more nuance to it, and there's more to like about it than on my first impression.
It ages fairly well.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, like I think I'm pretty sure I said this at the beginning of the episode, but like this is I definitely think this is I had the same thing. I watched it first in high school and I was expecting a mech show, and at first I hated it because it's not really a mech show. But it is so dense and it does have so much to appreciate. Like I think the second time I watched it, I was looking at it as this is a show about, examining mental illness, and looking at it that way. And it's great to appreciate. This time I was actually getting even more into appreciating it from like a cinematography aspect and shot composition and just, how it adds contrast through pacing and quiet. Like, in our selection, definitely a thing I wanted to get across is like when we're watching episode 1, it plays like a sort of standard anime. It is like, it could be Tenchi Muyo. They have the Waka Waka music. There's jokes. But then, the last 2 episodes, especially the last one, there's no music. There just isn't. Like it is something it is. And like you were just saying, the show flows really well. Like it happens in a way that's almost insidious in how subtle and well done it is. I think it's great. That is a whole nother level to appreciate it on. So it's just like, yeah, like for something that I originally hated because it wasn't the robot show I wanted it to be, realizing other ways, realizing that I could change the lens that I approach it with, really, I was just like, oh, actually this show is fantastic if you are looking for these other things. There's so much to appreciate in it. If you want a good robot show, I think we should go watch Basquash. Don't worry about it, it's already on the list for next season.
Spoiler.
You cannot stop me from talking about Basquash. There is snake.
It's true, you can't.
I think there's some kind of snake lady.
I think it's time we invoke the blackball rule. We get the Blackball 1 series.
No, that's the theme of the show. You cannot outlaw illegal street basketball. That is the anyway. Yeah. Yeah, I'm for something that we set up as sort of like the final boss of anime. I'm interested that we've all turned up so positive on it. Like, yeah, everybody's got issues with it, but okay, Bob, are you gonna go back and watch the rest of it?
I
Yeah, like
absolutely
your
am
final
going
thought.
to watch this series.
Hell yeah.
We'll see if I go to the movies by the end of this, or the other series, however you want to put it.
How about you don't
Start with this. Just start with the series.
How about you
Bob,
don't worry about the movies right now?
Bob, I'm not going to use a subtle hand. No, you only watch the show. For reasons. Shut up. Don't worry about it.
For bit reasons, we
Shut
must
up, don't worry
oblige the
about
bits. The bit. What do you think the biggest hook in you is? Because like I said, we tried to make a selection that
What's
um
it's going to keep me watching this?
Yeah, what's the thing that you want to go back to get, like, what's the part that you need more of?
What's
Is it
the
the
why?
characters?
More
Is it the
knowledge,
questions?
through yes, it's more knowledge on the impacts, and then getting to see what you guys see in Ray.
Yeah, okay.
And honestly, we're currently
The
Asuka
answer.
would like to see the fulfillment of her story arc.
What some people see in Ray.
No, I'll say this. The answer might surprise you.
Okay.
It's not what you see in Ray. It's what you see Ray in, perhaps.
Okay.
When you look someone in the face, Bob, what do you see? Who do you see?
Her face? I don't know.
These are all questions.
You
I'll find out next time.
absolutely need to tell us when you have watched it so we can do like afterwards talk. Because like
An after action
Yeah.
report.
Yeah.
I need to talk about these things unleashed. I need to be unleashed like Jet Li's unleashed.
So
Gotcha.
writes down Patreon
At the very
bonus
least-
episode.
At the very least, like, just record your thoughts after each episode, just like as notes or something.
I want one
I'll do that.
paragraph about each episode as you watch.
300 words or more. Minimum 300.
Okay.
3 sentences minimum.
I'll even put it in our shared notes.
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
That means
yeah, okay.
No one delete them.
I was gonna say, I could just make one that's specifically for Chuck's notes on Ava.
For Bob's notes on Ava.
Or Bob's
Yeah.
notes on Ava, yeah.
Hey, do you also,
I know it's mine.
how's Cowboy Bebop coming?
Yeah, I was gonna say all the
Yeah.
other shows Bob said he's gonna watch.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I
on my
remember
to-do.
Megas Bride was on that list too.
Vegas Bride, Cowboy Bebop, Mushishi, honestly.
Listen, having a backlog that you're failing to get to is a quintessential anime fan experience.
Yeah.
You're doing it right.
I know we've touched on this before, but yes, Bob, we have now set you up as, at minimum, the bog standard anime enjoyer. You have a backlog of things you would like to watch that you've said you would like to watch, and
Absolutely. I
we'll,
think I'm at
quote,
the
get
5 or
around
6
to you.
shows. Yes.
And
Oh.
I can tell you, even looking at my Crunchyroll list and my High Dive, well, High Dive's a lot shorter for many reasons. That's a list that only grows. Sometimes shrinks, but not often.
I still gotta watch Andor. Ugh.
Okay, I take back everything I said negative about Star Wars as it revolves around Andor specifically.
Oh no, I think the
Okay.
Lego sets are pretty good.
Anyway,
I need an Ava
Do you-
Lego set. Oh my god, I gotta go search. Excuse me.
Yeah, go
Do
to
you
Japan.
have, Bob, do you have any questions or things that you would like to know now before we end the episode?
That we might answer.
no, not concerning Ava. I would like to learn as I go.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Love it.
So you don't want to know that Pen is the final boss.
I would believe it. I am picturing Pen in an Ava.
No, Pen is the Ava.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why he's Pen 2. Pen is just inside of
That's where they got the that one Pokemon who is a steel and ice type because he's just
Empoleon.
a mech.
Yeah.
Yes, Empoleon. Well, I mean, before we end the episode, we gotta talk about our
Mhm.
ranking lists.
Yes.
Oh boy.
But this one, because I did not get the Fly Me to the Moon ending,
Hmm.
I can't really judge. However, the intro,
A Cruel Angel's Thesis.
I'm gonna put it 5. I
Ooh.
genuinely
That's fair.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
I don't know if it's because our last few episodes have not been as stellar for me.
for
This
title.
one
Opening
really
titles
just-
mean.
Yeah, thank you. Circling around, this really brought me back into anime. Like, this is my, when I think of anime, this is what I think of for a song.
That's fair. And recently in the last week or so, I was actually listening to some other tracks that I really like from opening titles of other series. And I was thinking about this because of our discussion earlier in the episode of how, like, I've heard this enough. I don't need to see it every episode. Yet there is a series that may or may not be next season where, I could listen to, I would say almost all, because there's one or two that don't really jive with me, all of its seasons intros. regularly because they are what I would call kind of quintessential anime fare for an intro that just kind of hit that note. Which means to say, I can't wait for you to see some of these and see how you feel about their intros.
We're going to have to decide if we continue building this list or if we create a second list and then have a tournament.
I was going to say, we
please. No, you list them separately, and then, then we have
agree.
the...
Okay,
I
good,
actually
good.
agree.
You
we do
you
top
have
10,
them separate.
top 10 v top 10.
Yeah. They're
The
the
exception
Highlander.
of Big O. Big O is low, but I will always quote it as an example of the low.
It is quintessential low.
Yeah.
It's definitely memorable in a way that most of the other
absolutely
ones
is.
aren't, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know the lyrics. All you have to do is say the show.
Kind of like you know the lyrics for Digimon.
I'll help you out, Nick. No.
Oh,
No.
we
For certain reasons,
need
Nick,
to
what you
have
say.
this discussion after you watch the rest of the show. That's all I'll say.
Okay, but for
I will
right
tell
now,
you right now, but Nick, without giving anything away, no, because, and I will leave it there.
No, Ritsuko's mom will leave it there.
Okay. Oh boy. Okay, so anime horse rankings.
Is an Evo horse? I mean, it eats like a wild animal.
You ride it? It's
The thing is,
biological?
I will say yes, and I will put little.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I will put it at. But Onyx. I'm going to put it at. Oh.
You can always look at that too.
Counter argument, you ride in it.
And that's where I'm torn whether it is an anime horse or a flying pussyfoot.
I would say it's more a flying pussyfoot than a horse.
Yeah, no, yeah, I prefer the flying pussyfoot answers.
I agree.
Yeah,
And I
but
can't say why.
sometimes it goes wild and becomes uncontrollable, like when a horse gets scared or goes crazy.
Wild pussyfoot's gone crazy.
I've never seen a
the
train
crash-
go crazy, except for the
Once it
crazy
gets
train.
derailed.
Yeah, I've seen lots of trains go crazy. What are you talking about?
Oh,
Once
okay.
they go off the rails like this show.
I will put Ava's at number 2 for flying pussyfoot.
Okay.
So saith the Bob.
So it's flying pussyfoot. Then, so are we saying Evangelions as like a genre of
Yes.
entity?
That's
Okay.
correct. Even though one got possessed by an angel and a few of them exploded here or there.
See, the angels
these
wrote
things
it.
happen.
too.
That's true.
I think the difference is you ride in pussyfoots and you ride on horses.
Interesting.
You know, I can. Well, that means Gundams might actually get on this at some point.
Oh. Again, our queer
No.
listing after
Yeah.
No, you
This
cannot
is
see
a
anything for
debrief.
reasons.
This is a debrief discussion after the full show. We'll come
No,
back
this
to
is a debrief after we do the whole property.
Yes.
Maybe. Okay. How about no?
No, I think everything was safe.
Yeah, even the
Yeah,
thing in the
like-
basement?
Yeah.
Extreme, maybe, but not.
Yeah, like
Listen,
it was taken seriously, but not in a way that was distasteful.
yeah.
Nothing
Listen,
that made you
not
regret
Jesus-
watching the show.
Correct.
Okay.
Not Space Jesus Christ on the knot cross there was, even though it had like little bodies distending from its literal actual bottom half, was nowhere near as unsettling as Worm Pit.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, I meant to mention this earlier, but that red cross that the thing in the basement, all caps, was attached to, that is the same way that they transported Unit 3. It was a giant red cross with the Ava on it hanging below that airplane.
Like crucifying things.
Yeah, it's weird how they keep doing that. It's like they're trying to draw similarities. It's interesting if you think about it.
Yeah, to, what is it, Sao Paulo? No, Argentina.
Yeah.
Sao Paulo.
I don't remember which.
No, yeah, I was saying Sao Paulo.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no, that was a period.
That was an agreement.
Okay.
All right, then I think that pretty much does it. Except we need to have. Did you have something?
I did have something to say.
What do you have?
So, Neon Genesis Evangelion was the last show in our existential crisis tier, which was the last tier in our season 1 list for the show. And normally we would talk about what's going on next time on Deep in the Weebs. We do have one more thing planned as a little treat.
Can I read what we wrote on our list?
I was going to say, well, we called it Bob's Bonus Book Report tier.
For me, I went with, I believe you guys call them OVAs, but I don't think that was their initial inception. They're 3 shows from 3 different platforms.
Oh.
Interesting.
In fact, for us to be able to pick a show, maybe, in order of left to right, Joe, you'll be our first one to pick. Would you like to watch a show? We'll just go basic. Would you like to watch a show on Netflix, a show on Amazon,
God.
or a show?
This is better than the taglines we made for you. Oh my
What was the
god.
third option? I didn't hear it.
You like some basicness? A show on Netflix, a show on Amazon, or a show on Crunchyroll?
I'll take Amazon.
Amazon? Okay, so for the next episode, we will be watching Death Parade.
Yo, that's on my to-do list.
Oh my god. All right.
So wait, we're all watching? I thought we were each getting our own show.
That's also kind of what I thought.
That's absolutely fine. Then, Nick, that leaves Netflix and Crunchyroll. And remember, you're also picking for Chuck.
I am.
Yeah, do you want a Netflix and chill, buddy, or you want a pretty normal standard sushi roll?
Well, so here's the thing. I'm trying to decide almost purely on how mean I want to be to Chuck, because I know the sort of quality of the stuff on Netflix.
Actually, because of one of the shows I like Nick have one I have dug my heels in on. There are some decent things on the Netflix.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about Neo Yokio, which has been on my list for a while, but
Well, then why don't you go ahead and choose Netflix, buddy?
no, because I also don't like the normal anime fare, so I think that'll be a funnier thing, so I'm going to take Crunchyroll.
You
All right.
coward.
Yep.
For Nick, you get Go.
Go.
And Chuck,
Bring
on
it.
our Netflix, you get BNA, Brand New Animal.
Son of a bitch! I actually may already have a foot in on this one, but not because of why you think.
You know,
Because of people I know.
this works out. I've already watched BNA. We just dodged a bullet. Dab.
Well, good thing I got some popcorn and pop ready to go later tonight.
I really
Here we
enjoyed
go.
BNA, so that's actually pretty good.
Joe is the only one I envy. Just because Death Parade's
As
been on my
it should
list.
be.
Death Parade's been on my list of I need an excuse to just sit down and watch it. Doesn't mean I won't go ahead and watch it anyway, but
Okay, well,
all right.
That's what I got.
so with a bunch of work ahead of the 3 of us that I'm looking forward to, it's time to us to say thanks for hanging out, and you can watch some anime. It might surprise you.
Get your Longinus checked.
Yeah.
Get in the robot.
Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.
You mean we
other
don't get to
plans.
have a summer break arc?
We do, but you mean
When have post episode conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah, no, this is post episode.
Sorry, audience, I had to do this to you.
No, it's all right. I already cut it out in my brain.
Damn it.